Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the OSR Tabletop live stream with DM Bluddworth. Great to have you all here as you start logging in, and I hope to have a nice, very unscripted discussion tonight about various things that I've been seeing going on within the OSR these last couple of weeks. It's been a while since I've done a live stream, and just to give you, just to give you a little idea of what my ongoing schedule is going to be. Pretty much my ongoing schedule is going to increase the amount of topics and the amount of videos that I'm putting out as I get towards the end of a school year. My second job actually becomes much more intense. I do pension consultations, and so near the close of a school year, I'm doing a lot more of pension consultations, and then it kind of tapers down. So I'm anticipating having a little bit more free time as far as being able to produce videos moving forward. Secondly, I am very quickly approaching my retirement from teaching, and so that is going to dramatically increase the amount of time that I'll have for doing content for both unscripted and unchained RPG review, and as well as doing live streams here for the OSR Tabletop. So, just giving you a little heads up that there will be some changes in my time for doing videos, and it's going to be positive changes. So I'll be able to get a lot more content out there in the upcoming weeks. So without further ado, let's start taking a look at some of the things that I've been encountering over the last couple weeks. So over the last couple of weeks, I've been seeing a lot of discussion, and I've actually participated in some of it as well, both on other streams and and on my own stream, or my own videos, as far as the BroSR, and just that the debate around what is the proper way of playing Dungeons and Dragons or Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and whether you're using one-to-one time and such. And this has been going back and forth now for the last couple of weeks. But as an outgrowth of that, I've also seen some more discussion, or at least I've been coming across and looking for more ideas about different ways of running game style ways of running, whether it be Dungeons and Dragons or any role-playing game in general. And so that's going to be one of the topics I'm going to touch upon here in a little bit as well. But I also wanted to focus on some of the strangest or just craziest ideas that I've come across, and that's what I'm going to lead with is probably the most just weird takes that I've come across within the last couple of weeks, which on the internet, that's pretty amazing. And for the TTRPG hobby and the YouTubers in general, YouTube commentating and Twitter and all that, I mean, to actually come across something that just was like, wow, that's really from left field, should stand out on its own. So now I am going to give a little shout out to the person who did this, but this is the most ridiculous take on the OSR I've heard in my recent memory. So here it is. As many of you might be aware, Wizards of the Coast is going to release a new starter box. And on that starter box, they're, either on the cover and within it, they're going to include some of the characters or characters inspired by Dungeons and Dragons cartoon. All right. So I believe they have characters inspired by Hank, um, Diana, the thief acrobat, although they call her a rogue, Presto, and and Eric the Cavalier. So those four characters, or characters inspired by them. And WizKids is going to introduce a a series of figures that go along with it. And the crazy take that I got, that I came across was from J. Scott Garibay. I will mention by name. Um, he believes that because they are utilizing characters from the animated cartoon, that it does two things in his mind. Number one, it further advances the legacy of Gary Gygax, which is something probably the furthest from the truth that you can come across. When you're thinking about Wizards of the Coast and their desire to push forth the legacy of Gary Gygax. I've said it multiple times to him. Wizards of the Coast and the people currently running Wizards of the Coast. Remember, Michael Merles has been benched. All right, so he's in the background, or he's virtually 1 foot out the door. Let's put it that way. But everybody else in charge of Wizards of the Coast um, have nothing but a total disregard for Gary Gygax. They cannot stand his legacy. They probably go months, if not years, without ever mentioning his name in their offices. He is not part of the thought process in any way, and you will slowly, if not already, see his name removed and erased from everything that they're doing for probably the past 2 years and certainly moving forward. So there is no desire on their part to enhance or extend the legacy of Gary Gygax. That they literally, I should say, figuratively, spit on his grave any opportunity that they get. So that's first of all. Second of all, and this is the thing that really blew my mind, is that he believed that the introduction of characters, as far as figures are concerned, which Wizards of the Coast only say that these are only inspired by those characters, is is Wizards of the Coast placing the crown of the OSR on their head. All right. So basically, Wizards of the Coast claiming the bastion of old school from the OSR and them taking full control of that. So that's what really blew my mind. I was like, how the hell could you come up with this idea that, oh, this is Wizards of the Coast owning the OSR by WizKids creating action figures. And then he took it one step further, that the OSR players, the traditional Grognard players, are so attached to the cartoon and the action figures from them, that we are going to secretly go out and buy this starter set just to have the toys that come along with it, and then we will hide it on our shelf someplace. But we're going to run out and buy this as if we are mindless lemmings just running to the Wizards of the Coast trough, because they're including some toys in their crappy box set. And I say it's a crappy box set because it's the same basic set that they have now, introduced to players out there, potential players out there. Um, it's the third or fourth iteration of the same rules. So you're not getting anything that you probably don't already have. And compare, like looking at the box set that came out for Stranger Things, what a waste of money that was. I mean, that was just a terrible product. The only good product that Wizards of the Coast put out, as far as box sets are concerned, is the D&D Essentials kit. All right, and that's only because it was $8, and but that kit is actually something that is of value, and everything else has always fallen short as being just a lesser product. So that's basically where I'm standing at, is like, if you really want to get that nostalgia fix, you could still get these on Amazon. All right. So you can get the 27, the 27 episodes of the cartoon. And I just happened to have these. I when we moved my mother out of her home, and took a look through the basement, and I came across, my Presto, my Hank, and the unicorn, Uni, from back when I was, you know, 12, 13 years old, when these first came out. And I believe they came out in like 83. So that would have made me maybe 14 years old when these came out. So if you're nostalgic like I am for old school, um, some new, some new, toy that they're throwing into the box is, or probably selling separately, is not going to bring me to, Wizards of the Coast trough. Instead, I will just search around and see if I can complete the collection. And even if that costs me a lot more, then fine, it costs me a lot more. But with that, we got several comments here, so let me jump in, and we'll go right to the earliest one. Howdy, Legion of Myth. Blah, I can't talk yet. How's it going? Good to see you. I'm discovering the older campaign books are much richer in variety and detail. I ordered Dark Sun hardcover from Drive-Thru the other day. Yeah, I mean, and J. Scott Garibay also has another video where he talks about why Wizards of the Coast is smart to stay away from setting books. And again, he's off the mark on the reason why. He doesn't quite understand the reason why they don't do it. The reason why they don't do it is because they can only borrow from the past. They cannot create something that is on par with the past. So they're willing, because they own the properties, to take something and then reimagine it. And their reimagining it is in most cases watering it down, dumbing it down, and repackaging it in a much lower quality than it was originally. And that's because they just don't have the writing staff capable of producing what what the earliest authors and artists and such of TSR of old had it within their stable of talent. So yeah, I think that's the main thing, is they just don't have the talent and the creativity to create new. Plus, they don't have the courage to create something that is new and exclusively theirs. And because they're afraid that if it gets rejected, it's a reflection of them. And if it doesn't sell well, then they only have themselves to blame. Um, the highest selling things, I believe in Wizards of the Coast, as far as D&D products are concerned, are really coming from Matt Mercer, and his stable of writers, and everything else is pretty much lower quality than what we see elsewhere. So that's a little rant on that. So let's see. Cal Scott is too full of shit, but not as bad as Amber Turd. So he's still just an amateur. I'm not sure who Amber Turd is. So, oh, I know who he's talking about. All right. So, yes. Yeah. Amber. Well, I can't even think of her last name. Amber Heard. Yeah. Yeah. Scott recently has really gone off the ledge, and I think that as the OGGM put out, um, you know, not merely meaning to throw his name out there, um, but as he's been going back and forth with Scott lately. um, Scott likes to look at things and twist them to his own reality, and just literally misspeak or misinterpret what others actually said, to twist it to his own. So it's I'm kind of done with it, and this will probably be the last time that I mention him by name, because quite frankly, I think he is too far gone. Yes, the old companion books had people who know what they are doing. Yes, yeah, they do. They know what they're doing, and and Wizards of the Coast has certainly demonstrated that even for those individuals who are still around, they refuse to reach out to them to get any kind of collaboration with them or whatever. And it's all about rejecting the foundation of the game that they unfortunately own. And then that's why I say they really do not care about the legacy of any of the old school TSR individuals, creators. If anything, they practically loathe them. Um, at least in private, I believe that they do. Publicly, they'll never come out and really lash out that way, because quite frankly, they probably don't want to. Um, they don't want to expose themselves to any great backlash. And plus, Gary Gygax has, he does have sons and daughters who are still alive, and they would certainly, at least a few of them, certainly have enough clout to potentially push back on anything like that, particularly Luke Gygax. Or new even, yes. So let's see. He's a loon. At first glance, I thought you were saying he was a toon, which actually would apply as well. He is kind of cartoonish. Um, yes, that's who we're talking about. Hello, O'Neill. Yeah, I mean, and for someone like O'Neill, who really he's you're very, I'd say, centered and kind of low key and everything. For someone like you to come out and say like this person is really reprehensible, or is a turd, as you're saying it, I think it carries a lot more. I tend to be a lot more abrasive than some, and even though I'm supremely like patient, and my patience is run kind of thin. Um, but I don't want to make this solely about J. Scott Garibay, but lately, I mean, he's been just lashing out at various individuals, particularly OGGM and just saying the most like nonsense stuff that it's like I wish he'd go back to talking about the Ukraine again. Yes. Let's see. He makes me a sad panda or a sad Thaco the clown. Yes, Max. It's just bizarre stuff. Like, I mean, I know, people will shill for Wizards of the Coast, but he takes it to a new level. Yeah, it's just they're inspired by, which means that they're loosely basing the characters. They're obviously going to change their classes to match 5e classes. Um, as a matter of fact, they call Hank. Hank was always a ranger, and now he's a fighter. Even though they do have rangers in fifth edition, so I don't know why they would have changed that. But you can also, I guarantee, and I will be controversial here, but there will have to be one non-binary character, one, you know, probably a trans character or a gay character, or they haven't quite race swapped yet, but they have swapped out the only ginger female. So it gets into the Hollywood war on redhead females. So it has swapped out the cleric, who is always depicted as a Caucasian redheaded female, and now she is a brunette, and the brunette cleric has come from what I understand, Alina, the cleric from Beckme, which is one of the things that J. Scott Garibay was like, this is them taking the crown from the OSR by including a character from Beckme and putting it into this toy set that they're releasing. Because I don't know if the figures are actually coming with the box set. Um, Look, it's a Dungeons and Dragons ride. Yeah, it's just and the idea that grognards are going to buy into it is kind of crazy. They're not. We are not. I am certainly not going to go out there. And although I don't speak for all, I think I speak for many. Um, you know, grognards, if he wants to talk about us, as a collective, um, virtually all of us are over 40, and we're not going to buy a product just for toys. Um, Even if you so desperately wanted these action figures, you can buy them separately from WizKids. Or you can wait until they start turning up on eBay and pick them up from there. Or, like I said, you can go and find the originals and buy them on eBay for anywhere from $20 to $40 a pop. Dungeon Master, I thought I saw for closer to 80. Um, and some of the other ones are a little bit harder to find. Dungeon Master, I think, was the most expensive one I saw a couple of months ago. Um, but let's see. We come up to. I remember the late 80s and 90s TSR creating a million different settings that ended up sending the player base and customers off in different directions. Wasn't the best business move. Yeah, there was a little bit too much. I think that they, you know, I mean, at some point they should have created a um, a settingless system a system where you created your own setting. So kind of like Worlds Without Numbers, or Stars Without Numbers, along that series, where they generated a guide for creating your worlds, and just a number of different charts and things like that you random charts and everything that you just roll and create a world like that. I mean, it's in the back of it's in the back of Beckme's books, spread out over the series of box sets of Beckme, and it's in other places as well, here and there scattered. But that they really should have come out with like a one volume kind of compilation of all of their world building articles and random charts and stuff like that you could use to to create your world, on your own. Um, and then, as you say, Colonel Morg, you could, then eliminate the need for so many different, setting books and box sets. So, a random question. A friend told me he believes Strixhaven was a rework project from a failed Harry Potter collaboration. Any truth to that? That I don't know. Um, it wouldn't surprise me because, like I said, they're not very creative or talented to create settings of their own. Um, and it's, I mean, next to Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, I think Strixhaven was the next book that really moved the game away from what is in essence Dungeons and Dragons and moved it to something else. So it's a continuing path, and um, the Radiance book that's coming out. I always forget the full title of it. That's coming out further brings it away from uh, Dungeons and Dragons. I know someone recently, or I saw, I don't think it was a meme, it was an article where it's talking about, well, lamenting how the players don't want to go on adventures. They want to, sit back and just chat with one another. Um, and no real challenge and no real, and they literally talked about um them sitting there drinking coffee, or the players just sitting around. It was actually even a reference to Critical Role, where they were like, all they want to do is just sit there and role play their characters getting drunk. And this is where the 5e player base is being brought to, is it's moving them away from engaging in a heroic fantasy um, game where you're being challenged to complete a quest, and that there might be real risk in completing that quest for your characters, and and success is not a given. That has slowly been bled away from fifth edition. It's it's less about the heroic fantasy. It's less about challenge. It's less about it being it being something that is like mechanics driven, in the sense that you don't have the possibility for failure in it. Strixhaven is the first one that really did that. There are numerous ways you can work around a failed roll in Strixhaven and still accomplish the goal that you're looking to accomplish. So it's like it's a school setting where you can't fail, um, which doesn't exist in real life. But they've decided that that's what they were going to create with Strixhaven, is some place where the characters cannot fail. And that's not D&D. I liked having more stuff to buy, though. So, yeah. Well, second edition was a little bit too bloated. I mean, even though I eventually picked up, quite a bit of it, you can kind of see it behind me there. But as a teenager, I would have never bought all of that. Um, as a 50 plus, grognard looking to complete collections and things like that. Now I have the money to do that. But as a teenager, I didn't, and there was no way I would have played second edition back at that time. Yeah, yeah, that was the video that really spurred on, my taking a look at what was being said by both, and he literally um, either purposefully misstated or just delusionally misinterpreted what the OGGM said. Um, And the OGGM, if he's here, he's welcome to come on and chat about it, or some other things as well. But yeah, it was just a bizarre series of videos going back and forth. Well, it's good to have you here, Derek. And it's never too late. Yes, they will absolutely gender and race swap. Um, they absolutely will, and that's a given. So I fully expect it. Yes, you can. You can certainly identify as a space turtle with a non-binary strap on, and I, as the DM, can, make sure that your character doesn't survive too long. I know I will get attacked for being the adversarial DM for doing that, but there was another recent thing that I saw. That Scott had attacked Seth over a video that he had done where completely misinterpreted what the guy said, and was like, that's to say that you're in your game world, you cannot have a tiefling, is like the most exclusionary thing that could be imagined, tantamount to excluding real races from your table. It's that equating uh fantasy with real life, and it's turning the orcs into blacks in the real world. It's the depictions of demons. I saw this in another video commenter, is like, you know demons are a depiction of Jews, and just crazy talk. It's a projection of their own racial biases that these people are throwing out there. And you know th- it's just nuts. It's just, these are the kinds of people that are coming into the hobby, that are so toxic to the hobby, that the OSR should really be pushing back on it and saying, no, this is going too far. We're starting to see the anti woke pushback in other industries. So hopefully, we see it. We see it come, on a faster track to the tabletop hobby, since we were potentially last on the list for where they would push that agenda, but maybe we'll be the first on the list to really push back on it, and to excise it from our hobby. Let's put it that way. I won't say community. We're not a monolithic community. Let's see if we get some new names here. I'm still watching Dark Sun lore videos. Hello, Sean. Um, or Shauner. I always think of you as Shauner now. Yeah, I'm sorry I couldn't pop into your video earlier. I was actually wrapping up some work stuff for Monday. But let's go and see. So second edition was great, but I only got the core books and the MCs. I didn't delve into the player splats. Yeah, I kind of went a little differently. I went with the player splats and the core books as well. Um, yeah, they're just good for some things, Max. The character splats and the race splat books and such, just gives you a little bit more flavor, but you don't have to actually use them. That's the one thing I really liked about second edition, was it labeled everything as optional, so that was a good part of it. Let's see, Hank. Hello, Hank. I agree with Matt. Through the older modules, B2 has given more enjoyment and content. The pages of 300-page module of 5e that was trash. Yeah. I mean, I just recently, a couple months ago, ran B2. highly modified it, but my gosh, it's such a timeless module that you can just keep on going back to. It amazes me that 45 years later, almost 50 years later, it still holds up. Any edition I played and played the same way, even the retro clones come and have fun with my friends. Well, that's the other thing. You're not supposed to have fun, O'Neill. The fun is not the objective of because if you're playing D&D to have fun, then you're treating D&D as a game, and it's not a game. It's a human improvement engine that Gary Gygax was so secretly creating that he himself didn't even recognize that he was creating a human improvement engine and not a game at all. Is it anti-woke though, or just non-woke? Um, no, there's some pushback. I mean, they're literally starting to. Netflix is supposedly firing people who were pushing the woke agenda. Um, I can almost guarantee you that you know, if Elon Musk actually takes over Twitter, those people who were canceling people or silencing people for brief times, just because of Twitter employees acting like the thought police, those people are going to be on a chopping block. So, I think that, yeah, there will be just the non-woke. I think you have the non-woke already. Um, but we don't have the anti-woke yet, or at least not in a big push. Okay, let's see. I don't think there will be any concerted anti-woke movements in TTRPGs. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if they lose enough money, they may. If they start seeing that they're just not maintaining their numbers, they might get to that point. We're not saying that they'll always be creative minded, although I think that their quality has dropped with being more concerned with the woke. And I think that's the main thing, is that I don't think that creativity and woke work that well together. Just like the other extreme. I don't think that you could be a hyper conservative and very creative either. Um, I think that they should be shooting for the middle ground and you know concerning themselves with talent more so than message. And I think that that's in the very beginning, that's going to look like it's anti woke because you're trying to move it from so far to the left to the center, and so it will initially appear to be anti woke. But once it settles into place, then it'll just be centrist. And I think that's going to produce a better quality than what you currently have. I see someone mentioning I am currently running so basic D&D fan. Hello. um, Basically covering running B2 with an OSC, and my group is having a blast. Yes. Um, I skipped over OSC, Old School Essentials, because I just feel that I have too many retro clones as it is, and I'm going to start up a campaign, at least for a brief time, campaign of Sword and Wizardry, and see how that goes. So that's kind of a retro clone of old school D&D, white box, essentially, and see how that goes. And that was going to be the other kind of discussion area I was going to have tonight. But we'll see. This kind of freewheeling it. Probably making it out of reused thumbnails of his videos. Okay, I missed something there. Um, I look at TTG, the tabletop RPG player Twitter profiles. A lot of them follow in woke Twitter circles. Yeah, I mean, it's like, but Twitter probably only represents 1% of any, of any hobby or large community out there. Um, so you just see like such a concentration of, the purple and pink haired weirdos on Twitter, because that's where they go. That's where they have a monopoly of voice there. But once that disappears, they're either going to, conform to a much more mellow and centrist um, way of comporting themselves on social media, or they'll look for someplace else to ruin. Well, I dislike WotC and gave them money for B2 is also like $2 PDF now. Awesome value. Yeah, you know what? You can get B2, an original uh, that's outside of its box set for $20. So I know that's not $2. But sometimes you can find old novels. You might even get it under $20, because usually people want to get them in the box set. So when you find them loose, they're not that hard to find, and most modules only run between. There were so many of them made back then too that B2 should be a fairly on the cheaper end of them. So you can get them for under $20. That's for certain. Well, not all of us, Sean, but a 5e player, which is barely a D&D player. I went gallons of gravy with that tater statue. Yeah. Is it really, James? Yeah. So, like I said, I have not really looked into OSE other than just the fact that, and I had it on the Kickstarter and then I dropped it. I was like, you know what? I just can't spend $100 on something that that I already have. Essentially the same thing. I mean, this is I know Shauna had asked, well, what is this here? So this is the Swords and Wizardry that I'm talking about, and it's a 4-volume set put out by Frog God Games, $60, and you get the you get a set of dice, you get the character sheets on a separate thing here. It's a referee's book, a player's book, a monster manual, um, reference sheets and such, and then several other extras that came along with the Kickstarter version of it. But so it was cheaper than OSE as well, and it's more compact because the OSE come in hardcover books, and so they actually take up more space. So I'm certainly happy with that. It's like you're trying to become your best friend. Don't do it. Don't do it. Just avoid it. Take a shot and avoid becoming Max's best friend. Let's see. Shots fired. All right. Yeah. I just did one. Um, didn't know you joined the OSR. Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out what the advantage of one-to-one timekeeping is. I don't think that they've um, effectively explained that. So if you have BX, you already have OSE. Yep, I have all of BX. Oh, I got one of my players joining in. So this is Sparrow, Leah. So she plays our druid. Hey, how's it going?
Doing pretty good.
All right.
I got a
Um,
game in about 45 minutes that I'll have to get off of here
okay.
for that.
Oh, cool. I'm just talking about recent stuff going on in the in the OSR hobby space, sphere, and just getting ready for our next game on Tuesday. So really excited about that. You guys are going to go into a pretty cool um, situation. Let's put it that way. So it'll be fun. It's a full blown um, scenario. Let's put it that.
That's
I'll leave
cool.
it at that. Yeah, it's a full blown scenario. Have a little bit of everything thrown in there. So I'm just going through some comments here and checking things out. You're welcome to chime in at any time. We'll see if anybody else joins on. If anybody wants to join on, just throw me a chat, a private chat, and I'll send you the link to join in. So you only got 3 rules for OSE. I'm happy with basic fantasy. Yeah, basic fantasy, if you have that as well. I just simply do timekeeping. Yeah, I mean, I keep track, and I mean, Leah could actually tell. Like, I think for a while. So we're right now in week 42 of our campaign, and I think that we started. Well, we started back in August, right? So we
Yeah.
started back in August, and we're in well, your characters are in like mid to late winter. So so perhaps they were a slightly bit behind real time. If we look at it that way, as far as I say seasonally, they're maybe a week or two behind in real time. Um which that's why I said like the one-to-one timing that the Broasar talk about is I'd have to make something artificial in order for that to occur. And I'd rather not have the gaming experience be artificial, as opposed to and trying to bend it to real time. And you can't bend real time, to match gaming. It's like, you know, one is immutable, real time is immutable. I'm sorry, I'm not a time lord. I can't change time. There was a character class in D&D, I think just from Dragon Magazine. I don't think it ever made it into the rule books. If you remember Time Lords, I remember that vaguely from definitely from Dragon Magazine. Someone can chime in with that. When did Time Lords ever make it into um, second, third edition? I don't believe they did. Okay, still talking about OSE. If someone makes me a new edition of the Space Opera RPG in hardcover with modern RPG rules, I'd probably buy it for old memories. Yeah, and you know what, Sean? I wanted to touch bases with you. I mean, I asked a little bit about, if I'm going to pick up Mongoose Traveler, and I know Max jumped right in and says, don't buy from Mongoose. But if I'm going to buy Mongoose Traveler, I mean, which edition of Mongoose Traveler should I pick up? Because I do have the first edition behind me. But I started reading through it, and it's super dry reading. But I do want to actually dig through it when I have a lot more time. When I retire, I'll have plenty of time then to read through it. But if I am going to either play Traveler or run Traveler, I do want to have the best version of it to actually do. So you know, and I, certainly love to join one of your games so that I could drive you crazy with my bad role playing. And nuts. I'll be waiting for you to say, "What do you do?" And so, no, I won't actually, force you to do that. I won't stand there. I came across another video of people playing, and when the DM asked, "What do you do?" There was literally like a 25-second silence. Not a single player actually spoke about what their character was going to do. I was thinking of sending that to you to review, since I love torturing you with those things. Yeah. So I actually got my brother and run 1-to-1. It's quite effective to deal with players wasting time needlessly. There's other ways to deal with players, wasting time needlessly, because once again, you're talking about in-game time. If they're indecisive, make them lose their initiative. If they're really indecisive and just standing around, moping around, that's where you'll do additional wandering monster checks. Or in other game systems, like Conan 2D20, you could generate Doom, which will have all kinds of negative effects down the road, that now the game master can use those Doom points to throw greater challenges at them. And basically, I know people will say, "Oh, that sounds so adversarial." It's adversarial to the play style that is getting bogged down by indecision. So you're not attacking the players directly, for the purpose of saying, "I'm just going to be an adversarial GM." You're attacking their play style that's bogging things down. You're trying to correct the way that they're playing, and teach them, hopefully, that no, you got to be a lot more bold and exciting, and a lot more decisive in what you're doing. And I remember actually talking to my own group of players here one time. I think it was when we were when you guys were in the Bugbear lair, and I just said, just go for it, just push. Don't be so worried about, just push ahead. You're a large party, you're kind of steamrolling through everything, at least in some of those, circumstances. So just roll with it. Don't worry about it so much, or don't be so reluctant or whatever. Just be bold. And that's what I'm really looking for. And that's what I reward, is for, players that are bold with their characters. And, that just makes it a lot more interesting and fun to play the game. Sometimes it could backfire, but that's the nature of the game too. You're not doing easy tasks. You're doing things that are, challenging and dangerous, and sometimes, going bold is, you have to know when to do it, but you're usually better off going bold than not. Overly cautious usually gets you killed as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see. Why am I not scrolling down for more here? All right.
I have a comment on that last one. Old school gaming, yes, you do have a chance to die.
Mm-hmm.
And dying is, of course, the ultimate way to fail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's I think the ultimate failure is it's weird. These things are not working right. The ultimate failure, just like almost in anything, actually, is when your actions lead to somebody else failing. That to me is, so if my actions has another, if my character's actions causes another character to die, that's a pretty darn big failure.
But it's also a role-playing opportunity.
Yes. Yeah, like we've had some of our most fun times with, friendly fire incidents.
Yes.
And
I was one of the first to do that.
Yeah, that's not just in this particular campaign. That was in my D&D Beck Me campaign as well, was there was one female player, and she was playing her thief, and I can't tell you how many times she shot someone else in the back with her crossbow. That it was just it just became like a running joke. It's like, all right, who is she going to shoot today? And yeah, she just had terrible luck with those rolls. And I use the same mechanic too, that I use with you guys. You got to roll, you got to critical fail twice in order to hit another player. And she did it quite a number of times. I took a pic of my cat passed out to promote this for Johnny. What are you talking about? Sometimes I miss the stream here. It is pretty random. Do other gamers who played and occasionally had their characters survive the S series of modules, you become over cautious? Yeah, but you know what? We didn't have that mentality back then, that character death was just looked at differently. I think it was like, oh, okay, I'll just roll up a new character. It was, when you lost a character that you had been playing for weeks or months or maybe even years, yeah, you were kind of upset by it, but it was, roll up a new character, okay. And usually my DMs back in the day, they used to have me roll up a character that was one level below the average of everybody else, and you would catch up eventually because of the way that the level requirement scales. But that's just what we did. You just rolled up a new character. We weren't so invested in our characters because we were invested in the idea that the game was meant to be challenging, and that's what we're invested in. We're invested in the game, not necessarily in the not necessarily, any other. Give me the chat in StreamYard. Yes, I will, Shoner. Let's see. So let's see. I'm going to invite, copy it, and then no, let's see. I'm going to put it in private chat. So if anybody wants to join in, we'll see. I can have up to, I believe, 10 people in the private chat. So I just put it in private chat, Shoner, so you could jump in anytime you wish. Oh, in Discord. I'm not in Discord. I put it here if you want, but let me pop into Discord and see that I don't screw everything up.
I can remember trying to explain to somebody why I was playing role-playing games, and they said, well, how do you win? I said, you survive.
Yeah, that's winning. Shoner, I think I'll mess up my camera and everything. You can jump in through, I put it in the private chat, so you can link right through to SteamYard to join in through the private chat here. I sent it out to everyone, so the first 8 other people can jump in. Let me see if I could do this. Let's see if @Sean works.
This last session, because it's winter, as the druid, I started trying to figure out whether or not the weather was going to change on us. And all it did was get a little bit colder, a little bit colder, a little bit colder. And I'm going, come on, I'm sure that there's snow out there somewhere.
Yeah. Well, you're kind of like at the peaks. It's probably more like icy than snow, but yep, it'll come. Let's see. might have sent that to you, Sean. Not sure. So let's get back. Let's see. Actually tried to murder my paladin and cleric because we kept surviving through fights. We still come out alive. Yeah. Yeah, like I there's only one time in my GMing that I just got tired of a character, and he was invincible. He had such defense against melee combat that I really couldn't find anything that was a challenge for him. There we go. Hey, Sean.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
All right. So, yeah. So anyway, I've only intentionally killed one character. All of my time of GMing, and basically since he was impervious to melee combat, his defensive ability to melee was just beyond rolling a 20, and even a natural 20 was so diminished in the amount of damage that it did to him that he was able to absorb that with his armor absorption. So it was like he couldn't be killed. So I found his defensive weakness was arrows, and so I threw like 20 archers at him. And it was like, he was like pilloried like that Viking in whatever Viking movie that was, where the guy get hit with like 70 arrows at once. That's a famous scene in, I forget what, I think that was the Viking, the movie The Viking, and the guy walks up to the first series of trees and I guess like Nova Scotia or something like that, and all of a sudden he just steps off the beach, takes a couple steps forward, and he gets hit by like 70 arrows from head to waist, just covered his entire body. But anyway,
I have a question.
Yeah, what's your question?
What does 1-to-1 mean in the chat here?
What they're talking about is that according to the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons First Edition Dungeon Master's Guide, the goal is to create a 1-to-1 ratio between in-game time and real-world time. And so if let's say your player characters utilize 10 days in-game, then you cannot play those those characters for 10 real days in real time. You have to wait, and that gives you the opportunity to play a different group of characters, and then wherever they stop off is where you might potentially be able to go back to the original group again, or go to a third group of players. And so it's a way, like, from what I understand, Gary had something like 60 players, but this is going back to when they were really playing, old school D&D, and it was more of a war game than it was, a tabletop role-playing game, and so...
Well, the game rooms were huge, and they had huge tables for the war games, and they used those tables to play D&D on. So you could easily fit, 12 people at a table.
Yeah, and I know, like, if you watch The Secrets of Blackmoor, I mean, that's what Dave Arneson's table was like. I think they had like 12, 16 players at the table at once as well, and it's like, wow, like how, like being...
It looked like a company boardroom meeting almost.
Yeah. and it was like, but their system was so simplistic, right? So they were using just a 2d6 system for doing everything. Their rules were not written down. They weren't, they were hardwired maybe in Dave Arneson's head, but they weren't, as written down and as, so they were just, what do you want to do? I'm going to think of how challenging that's going to be for you. Oh, you need to roll an 8 on 2d6 in order to be successful. What does that success look like? Don't tell me I rolled a 9. Yeah. Just tell me this is what I did. Very much in lines, I think, with like what you proposed.
I remember one of the DMs back then in the early 80s, he would say, what's going on? And then he would sit there, and whoever spoke first got to do their turn,
Mm-hmm.
And if they said, "Can I go down a hallway?" he would interrupt them and say, "Just tell me what you're doing."
Yeah.
And they didn't have minis. They had dice, but they didn't have the minis. They would just say what they're doing. And then he would have them roll if they needed to do a roll, or he would say, "Okay, that's where you are next." And then someone else would speak up.
Right.
And I can't remember. I'm sure the guy's no longer around, but these were old footage someone videotaped with a camcorder
Yeah.
in a game store. It wasn't at a convention. It was just at a game store, probably in Geneva somewhere.
Yeah. It was probably, either Geneva or the Twin City, the
Yeah.
Twin Cities area.
It looked like a game store of some sort.
Yeah. Like I said, I mentioned earlier, I came across another video and I was like, I gotta send this to you, because the guy goes, "What do you do?" And like all 4 players just sat there for an eternity, like nobody knew what to. And then the one guy says, "I guess we should think of what we're going to do." He asked us what we're going to do, but they were silent for so long. I was like, oh my gosh, it was like,
Well,
just
some players get into that habit of being on the Disney theme ride where they're sitting in the teacup chair going on Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, and they don't have to do anything. Their character's doing all this amazing stuff, and then there's a pause, like maybe the rail breaks and they turn the lights on and they have to fix the brakes on one of the cars, and then they start the ride up again. And during that time, everyone's deathly quiet. No one knows what it's supposed to do. It's the GM needs to tell us what we're doing next, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So they're surprised when they're asked, what do you do? And it's like, they've been sitting there being told a neat story about their character, and now they have to get off the ride and figure out what to do in this, one cow town kind of a thing.
Right.
But yeah, if you can find that link, send it to me. I'll watch it.
Yeah. I'll try to find it again.
I'll torture myself.
I know. Last one I said to you, we were like, "Damn you, Bloodworth! What are you doing to me?" And I didn't get as far as you did in that, actually. Before I shut it down, I was like, I just can't take it anymore. And then I went back to it again to finish. But that was the one with Jeffro Johnson. All right, so that's really why I was looking at it. That was the one with Jeffro Johnson, and I was like, here's the guy that's talking about rules as written, like it's gospel. And
does he do the one-on-one? Does he do the one-to-one thing?
Yes.
So in a game session, 10 days would go by in the game session. So in real life, you got to wait 10 days in real life,
correct,
before you can continue that game
with those players. Yes.
Why would you do such a thing?
Because that gives you the opportunity to have other players come into the mix of things, and they can actually cross over with what the other players had already done. And so this is like the way that you can incorporate 60 different players, playing multiple characters. And then this is all for the patron play. So each character is really not doing the direct action, but they're having their minions do, things for them. And this is supposed to be simple to organize. I was like, I mean, I might not be the most organized person on the planet, but I'm sitting there. I was like, how the hell? I mean, I was a logistics officer in the military. I was like, how the hell you do this? It's like, this is, I don't see how you get all of those moving parts.
In the old days, there was Ultima Online. And if you didn't like what was happening in your neck of the woods, you logged off the game and went on to a different server. And you would have a different player that you could then control and have a different house where that player lived. You could do that for a while. But you're doing this all on mainframes and stuff.
Right.
So to do this by hand, it just seems crazy to me.
Yeah. I think 28 millimeter RPG, with his comment there, it was like there are too many people for any sensible potential role playing. I don't know. It depends on it. The system has to be really simple for you to then just focus on role playing if you're playing with that many players. You know what I'm saying? And they all have to be paying attention to what everybody else is doing. They can't be off on their cell phones and when you look at the old school people, obviously they don't have the cell phones but they're not eating their, They're not eating pizza and, running off to the bathroom and coming back again, constantly or whatever. They're tied in to what's going on. They're listening to each other. Otherwise, yeah, it become a nightmare to try to figure out. As soon as somebody said, well, what was he doing again? It's dead. You can't move forward now, because now you have to rehash what everybody else was doing at the time just to get that one knucklehead caught up to speed again.
Well, I know a lot of Traveler players will have more than one character because in their mind, all the ship operations have to be done by PCs, not by NPCs. Mm-hmm. So if they don't have an engineer, then a player has to make a character until they end up with an engineer character. Or if they don't have a pilot, someone has to keep making characters until they end up with a pilot character. Instead of the referee just taking control of NPCs that will be needed. So then you have players trying to keep track of more than one player character. It's hard enough for them to role play just one character. And it just becomes a bingo thing in church where the old ladies are sitting there and they all have bought 10 bingo cards and they have them laid out in front of them and they're trying to see which bingo card is completed first and yell bingo.
But
you have a chance of winning with more bingo cards you bought.
But I would think like in that scenario that you're talking about, like on a ship and having different control centers on the ship, they're not doing that simultaneously. You're bopping, like from scene to scene, from location to location. So you can have multiple characters in different sections of the ship, and still have a continuous flow of what's going on.
Yeah, you could. You could have like 4 players in the game, and each player has 2 characters, so you have 8 characters. So it just takes longer to go around the table,
right?
For everyone to do their turn.
Yeah, the game I'm thinking of is B-17, Queen of the Skies, the Avalon Hill game. You have different sections on the B-17 that could be individual players, and you just go.
Yeah, like 7 or 8 guys. Like 7 or 8 guys on the plane, right?
Yeah. You could literally have one player. You have 2 separate players for the waist gun. You have a ball gunner. You have the top gunner. You have the tail gunner. You have the bombardier, the pilot, and the navigator. And every one of those could be a different player.
Yeah, that's true.
And then based on where the plane is coming, the attacking plane is coming from, that will tell you who has initiative, basically. Who's, usually the waist gunners are going to fire first. And then if the plane goes over, then it'll be the top gunner. If it goes under, it'll be the ball gunner. If it's running from 1 o'clock to 7 o'clock, then maybe your top gunner will go first, and your ball gunner, your 2 waist gunners, in sequence, and then maybe even the tail gunner will get a shot. It goes based on, not initiative, but the situational, the location of where everything is and what makes sense for that action. And I do the same thing in my AD&D game. A lot of times I'll tell my players that, it's not who's going to go first, but, what direction the attack is coming from and who is the one that is most likely to engage, that particular attack. That's who's going to roll initiative, or that's who's just going to attack first. And, so I basically use that kind of a situational sense rather than, just doing a general dice roll in order to determine those things. So I think it's a much more cinematic way of doing it. Sense before dice rolls. That's what I like to think of it as. You're going to use your common sense before you resort to just using the dice rolls.
Have you ever played a game in a way where everything's an NPC in the game, but the players get to go inside the head of an NPC and then role play that NPC as if it was a PC?
No, what game system?
No, there's just a made-up game system.
Just a made-up game system?
Just a made-up thing.
Never...
Like a mass combat kind of setting where you got armies and you have, I'm going to role play this one veteran guy who's on the front lines for a while. So you're fighting from his point of view on the battlefield.
Yeah, when you do, I mean, I've never done it in a role playing game, but when you do the real time strategy games, war games, especially computer war games.
Yeah, on computers
I
you
mean,
could do it. Yeah.
yeah, on computers you're almost forced to do it, right? You take
Yeah.
control, like the old World of Warcraft. Before it was an MMO, it was a real time strategy game, and you were taking control of each individual unit, and then giving it directions, and then you would hit go again, and it will start to enact those things. So you had a pause feature, where you could give every one of your units on the table, different commands, to act. And so that worked out very similar to what you're describing.
I was thinking about Star Trek. When I've played Star Trek and Traveler, we never played Spock or Kirk, but we would just play regular crew members on the ship. We would role play what our characters are doing on the ship. And if there was red alert, or if captain on the, you're needed up on the bridge or something, or report to sick bay, you just came back from a planet, you need to be cleansed or whatever, your character would be told to go here, talk to this person, check in with this person. So you're constantly doing stuff, even though you're not like a major character, if you know what I mean. You're not in charge of a starship. You're not commanding a starship. You're just a crew member.
Right.
And
you're playing a support role.
You get to fix the shuttlecraft when it comes back damaged. You get to repair computer systems when they spark out on the bridge, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's a type of role playing where, I guess the game master is really giving that that player character a sense of, you're starting at the bottom, you're slowly going to work your way up from nameless ensign to, a more valuable crew member until you actually become bridge crew, and maybe decades down the road you end up being the captain of the ship, and running that full circuit. So I mean, in D&D terms, it's like starting as a 0 level character.
In the Star Trek 2009 movie, how quickly did Kirk get promoted until he was captain of the ship? It seemed like only a week went by.
Yeah. It was like, well, there were combat promotions, weren't they? They were like, people were getting killed above him, and he was just thrown into it again. It's like if you're in a Saving Private Ryan scenario where it's like, everybody's getting killed. I go from a private to a colonel in in one battle. But yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen the 2009 Star Trek. Star Trek has been virtually ruined for me, so it's so hard to go back to watching it anymore.
Yeah, the last Star Trek movie ruined it for me, I think, with the Yorktown. It was in some sort of a glass bubble, snow bubble thing.
Yeah.
And Enterprise could fit inside this thing. It was weird. It looked like it was coming back to a monorail Disney station or something, letting passengers off, bringing passengers on.
Yeah, was that the one when Kirk was on the motorcycle?
Yeah,
that's.
And the girl lived in the Franklin. She thought it was her house.
Yeah.
You're breaking my house.
Yeah.
She was the only character I liked in the movie. The rest of them are like,
she was the only interesting one. Yeah.
The other ones turned into all action characters. It's like, what happened? Because they were doing in the second movie, they were doing the punching and the hitting and stuff.
So I guess this was lore, though, that Kirk was the youngest to captain a Constitution class starship. I wonder if that's old lore as well. So maybe he was always the youngest.
It's possible.
If that goes back to the original series, possibly that he was the youngest.
Because I always assumed that when they started the Star Trek series back in the 60s, they were doing their 5-year mission. I assumed that he had just taken over the Enterprise. But what it really was is this is just one of many 5-year missions they've been doing.
Right.
I figured they do 5-year mission and then they come back and they do something else. But no, They're constantly being sent
multiple
out.
5-year missions. Huh? I never knew that actually, so I never really thought about it that much, because I watched the original series as a kid, and as a young teenager, for the second time around or whatever, never really dug deep into it and deep into the lore of it. So he was 34 years old, someone's saying, when he took
Because
command.
11 years earlier is when
Yeah.
the Pike thing happened.
Yeah, he took over from
Or
Pike.
it was the Farragut. He was on the Farragut or something, and the thing that sucks.
Well, yeah,
something-
the first episode was
the cloud
the
thing?
cage. No, the cage.
Oh,
The cage with the menagerie.
Yeah.
So I think they had two different names to it.
How many
at
years
some point.
before? How many years before, or how many years was that before Kirk shows up?
Well, I don't know how many years, but I know by episode 3, Kirk was Pike was only there for 2 episodes or possibly 3.
Yeah, I
It
can't
takes a-
remember how long it was. Maybe it was 11 years.
Yeah, I'd have to double check.
I want to say that
Yeah.
when that was happening, when the cage was happening, Kirk was on the Farragut,
Hmm.
and he was obsessed with that gas critter that would suck all the blood out of your body, or all the white
Oh, the salt.
blood
Oh, the
cells.
salt.
No, the white blood
Oh.
cells.
Oh, okay.
That was the one where they used atomics to blow it up, and then their
Yeah.
atoms get scattered across the
Oh, okay.
galaxy.
I was
And
thinking of the other creature. Yeah.
Spock fixed, cross-circuiting to circuit B.
Hmm.
They were able to beam them back.
Yeah.
Because he had a young ensign on the ship who was his father was the captain of the Farragut.
Hmm.
And Kirk blamed himself for not shooting the thing with phasers when he was told to, for some reason. And then when they did have the chance to shoot the thing with phasers, it didn't even hurt the critter anyway. The phaser just went right through it.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I
It's also
certainly
the
would have
episode.
to go back and.
Bill Shatner had a cold in that
Yeah.
episode, so he sounds like he's dying. He sounds like he's taking Tylenol cold medicines like candy.
Okay. So let's see. Brain. What is a brain? All right. You're talking about Spock's brain. Episode Spock's brain.
Yeah, well, technically every episode of old Star Trek is a horror show.
Yeah. All right. So let's see. Let me go to one of my other banners here, and wanted to talk a little bit about, and maybe Shona, you can chime in on this as well. So I've been looking into West Marches, like an episodic kind of game style. So doesn't necessarily have to be D&D. I guess it could be anything in particular. Is most traveler sessions or campaigns broken down into episodic structure?
Yeah, pretty much. If you're using the same characters, let's say they're mercenaries, so every week they can be going through another Stargate or jumping to another bug planet and do bug hunting on each planet, and then return back to their base, get their money, buy more ammo, better weapons, better armor, better scout ships, whatever, and then go back and do the same thing for another world. Especially if it's a later setting of Traveler where you're rebuilding your star empire from scratch. So each game session, you're sort of scouting out planets, seeing if they're habitable still, or if they're, it's not on the list kind of a thing, where the planet is red X'd out because it's radiation still and no survivors from the atomics. So you move on to the next planet and see if it's habitable, if there's any life, if there's any technology, or who's there. That's the new era Traveler, where the virus kills off everyone pretty much like the Terminator.
Okay, so yeah, and that's actually what I was looking to do with my my newest Swords and Wizardry campaign, is to just test out that kind of gameplay, just for myself, for my players, and see how it actually works, as far as just doing that kind of thing where you're going to go out, you're going to do something, and then you have to return back to your starting point. Otherwise, and I haven't quite gotten like what happens if you don't make it back. Do you die in the wilderness, or you're always trying to
Maybe
or
maybe it could be like a cybernetic thing where your character is in a chamber with something stuck in his neck, and he's using telepathy to remote control something in another star system, the robot android synth critter version of himself, and he
right.
has to get past some ancient artifact without getting destroyed. And if his robot thing dies, then he dies in his chamber.
Right. So that's kind of like what they did in Avatar, right? The movie Avatar was, the
Yeah.
guy was in a,
And
was that same kind of
the Matrix and all the other 90s
Yeah.
films that use that kind of technology.
Yeah.
It just makes it more I don't know, interesting for the players, I guess.
Yeah. Believe it or not, actually, EVE Online has that as well. I mean, that's the concept of EVE Online, is that you're jacked into your ship, and if your ship is destroyed, unless your character is is cloned, and you automatically transfer back to your clone back in a different location, you always die with your ship. And you're fully jacked into your ship to every single control in your ship, and the captain is the only one that's jacked into the whole ship, and everybody else is expendable. So when a ship goes down, everybody dies. Only the captain is the one that gets sent to a clone, recloning site, and just steps back out of the cloning pod. Unless you haven't kept up with your payments on your clone in the facility, because then if you die, you lose all of that. You lose your ship, you lose all of the currency, you lose everything that character had, and you lose all of the experience that was built up. So that's how the game works, is that in-game currency you're using to update your clone to cover the last level band that you had gone through. So all of your real-time experience that you gained, you use, like if it took 12 days to learn a skill, it took 12 real world days to learn that skill. If your character died and you didn't have that, skill backed up, in your clone, you lost that 12 days worth of training.
Right.
You're set back there. It's not like, oh, I'll just purchase that time and that skill back. No, you had to go another 12 days to recover that skill again. So that's one-to-one time if you want to talk about it, but again, that has all of the mechanics built in to a computer program, to actually do that for you. I mean, could you do it on paper? Sure. I guess you could, but but who's going to want to spend 12 real world days of time trying to make up for a character dying, when on a pen or paper you don't have to do that. That's a real tough sell, to have a player say, well, you got to sit out for the next 12 days before you could bring your character, before you can come back to the table and play, unless you want to play. That's crazy. It's like, so anyway.
Hey, Bluddworth?
Yes.
Bluddworth, I'm going to have to be leaving.
All right. You have a good one, Leah.
All right. Take care.
All right. Take care. All right. Let's see. What else do we have? So we had that.
You can also do episodic, where it's space 1999, and every episode the players are in another star system.
Right. Yeah. You could do, I mean, Star Trek was episodic too. You know what I'm saying? There was no requirement to, that one episode would be a pickup off the other. So, it was, you could do that in fantasy as well, but you have to make sure that they make that return all the time. So that was the other thing that I was, taking a look at doing was to take that West Marshes type play and then apply it to a hex crawl, because I think that's how they typically did it back in the day. And so if you can travel 6 hexes, but during that 6 hexes travel, you come across another town where you could safely rest and train and do,
Right.
shop and do all that stuff. That's the way you expand the map. You don't always have to go back to the same place you started from.
Right.
And so that's the other element that I'm going to probably include as well, just to tie it into fantasy. But I think sci-fi works a lot easier for the reasons that you mentioned too. You have the technology that can do a lot of that kind of projection of your activity that you don't have in a fantasy setting.
Yeah, and Traveler's got the thing where you can stick your memories on a chip, and then you put that chip into somebody else, and basically your personality is now in that person.
Right. So,
and they can make copies of that chip, so there can be copies of your clone, kind of a thing.
Yeah, that's cool. So John Schlow was saying that Forbidden Lands has what we're looking for. So I guess Forbidden Lands is that a combo of fantasy sci-fi? Forbidden Lands.
I want to say that's 2 books, 2 hardcovers.
Yeah.
If I ever buy another RPG, it'll probably be that one.
He's saying technomancy. So it's probably, technomagic kind of thing.
Yeah.
All right. That's cool.
The cover reminds me of Wizards for some reason.
Yeah, it's probably, I know the cover. I've seen it plenty of times. It's like, isn't it somebody riding on the back of a dinosaur kind of thing? So a lot of people don't have the investment time. They have a job and family. Yeah. Well,
now, how do you do travel, Bloodworth? Do you fast travel or fast forward, or?
It depends on what they're doing. Like, if they're, so far they've been traveling, by horseback. So they'll cover, the amount of time per day that they can travel is just, that's still kind of locked in. They're not going to travel more than 10 hours. Just that depending on their mode of transportation, they might go further than that 10 hours before they're stopping for the day, kind of thing. But like I had mentioned with Leah earlier, because she's one of my players, we're in our 42nd week of playing. We started in August, and their players are currently in late winter. So we're kind of close, maybe, a week or two, or probably like 2 weeks off from 1-to-1. If I were really paying attention to trying to keep it 1-to-1, but I haven't been. I haven't been focusing on it. So we're kind of around that spot. At one point, when I was looking at it, it was up until they started training their characters up from I think level 3 to 4. We were dead on. It was like, your characters have been traveling for 16 weeks, and it is week 16 in real life, at the same time, and it just coincided. It was like organic. We didn't, I didn't bend time, in order to get it done that way. It just happened that way, and for a moment I was thinking, well, maybe that 1-to-1 time actually does work. But it was only because it was organic. It wasn't, if we tried to make that happen, it probably would have never happened. You know what I'm saying? It's like, we just happened to be around that same kind of time period.
Oh, see, I've never had that. I've never even thought of that, because in Traveler, I'm in the 57th century. I'm not even near Earth. We're on a planet that has different orbital speeds, and the number of days in a year are different. The number of hours in a day are different. Sometimes there's 2 or 3 stars that you're looking at when you stare out in the sky. So no, and the months are all different. So,
well, yeah, in the fantasy realm they are too, but people like to mentally think this is, I mean,
Europe.
I haven't. Yeah, yeah. I haven't looked at. I haven't looked at Greyhawk's calendar. To see. Do they have the same 365? Days a year, 12 months a year, or whatever, or do they have some other configuration? Yeah, maybe they're using the Roman lunar calendar, which throws everything off by. It's. I think people oftentimes try to mix real world with your fantasy playing, and like I said earlier with Leah on, it was like or maybe I said it to you, it's the you can mute the game time, you can bend the game time whenever you want. You can change the real time. Real time is real time. I'm not a time lord. I can't change the
You can't
you
change
know
real time.
yeah, I
What?
can't change real time. I've tried, it
Try
just
harder.
doesn't work. Yeah, try harder.
That is where you fail. Yeah, in Traveler though, they do have the 365-day rule. They tweaked it a little bit because now there's a day 0. Because if you look at our calendar, there was no day 0. There was no year 0.
I know that's when the Romans took what they take 33 years off the calendar.
I don't know. But the
When
when
Constantine
2000
became a Christian.
when 2000 happened, you were still in the 20th century. When 2001 happened, that's when the 21st century begins.
Yeah. Yes. But what I'm saying is that the Romans actually, when Constantine became a Christian, he wanted to reset the clock in the basically the calendar. So he took he was like, well, Jesus died when he was 33, so I'm going to make this 33 years off, remove 33 years
Oh,
from the calendar.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he basically created a year 0, essentially without it being, but they, obviously they didn't change it on global calendars at the time. I think that might have just been in the Eastern Roman Empire, at that point. But our calendars today reflect that change. You know what I'm saying? So it really isn't 2021. It should be 2044 or something like that.
Yeah, well,
22, I mean.
but in Traveler, just the Imperium is using that time and date
Mhm.
system anyway. Because when you go to another planet, they have their own calendars and stuff. The people that live there, or the things that live there, they have their own time clocks, their own time, whatever.
Yeah,
And,
I think it's
but
yeah.
once you get to like a starport, then you have to you start following
Mhm.
Imperial time, because that's when the ships arrive, and you don't want to be
Yes,
late for your ship.
yeah. So like you were saying, like in my game, if the players jumped on a ship that was going to take them 3 weeks to get from one place to another, I'm not going to say, all right, I'll see you all in 3 weeks, and we'll pick up where, what I'm saying. It's like, all right, we're going to take a nice, I mean, unless we were going on vacation, and we're like, all right, it's going to be 3 weeks before we could all come together and play again, then maybe that'll be a nice way to, kind of kill the time. But no, I wouldn't do that. I would just say when they come back, they came back where they left off.
If that is a play style, that's too foreign for me.
Well, yeah, because it's tying real time, in the real world to what's going on in your imaginary game. It just doesn't make sense to do that. It's unnecessary. I don't know what you gain by doing that. That's the one thing that the OSR has not been able to explain.
Well, you
Is
said
what
earlier
you
that
gain.
while those players are in La La Land for 3 weeks, you can come back the next day and role play with different characters doing something else.
Yeah, I guess so, but
I'd rather just come back and continue on with the characters that you
yeah,
just left with.
it's like, why would they want to play a whole slew of different characters at the same time? I think that you're going to dilute your experience with the one character you could be devoting all
Well,
your time to.
some people will hate this, what I'm about to say, but if you're playing more than one campaign during a week, you're already diluting whatever it is you're doing.
Well, yeah,
Doesn't
even
matter
as
if
a
it's,
player, yeah.
like on Sunday I played Traveler, and on Tuesday I played Champions, and on Wednesdays I play D&D, and on Friday I play Call of Cthulhu, and Saturday I play RuneQuest. I mean, they're different worlds, different characters. Who cares if they're in the same universe or not, or these guys are asleep while you're doing this? No, the point is you're playing a different game with different characters more than once a week. That's quantity over quality in my book.
Yeah. I mean, unless they're all one shots, which I think in a lot of cases, that's what people are doing, though, is that they're doing multiple one shots a week. I mean, some of my players, like Leah, had to leave for her game, that she's either running or playing. And yeah, I do have players that play in more than one game a week. I personally, to me, it's a challenge to run 2 different games a week. Not just because of my time. I work 2 jobs, but it's just the idea of mentally trying to keep 2 games going, because I do spend the whole week thinking about that next session. It's like anticipating it, really, let's see what I can do to make it more interesting, and make it a little bit more role-playing heavy. Like, how am I going to encourage them to do certain, like to investigate, or to do this or to do that, kind of thing. And I think about the next scenario, and a lot of times it's really up to them where they decide to go with it. So that's why I don't really plan everything out, but I just have like some general ideas that I'm hoping that they come to without railroading them, obviously, to it. I don't do any kind of a railroading, per se. I let them basically say which direction they're going in. To do that for 2 different campaigns at the same time, I don't know how people have the capacity to do it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to do it. I'm too busy thinking of the next one shot and what characters we're all going to come up with for that one shot, and how we're all going to introduce our characters to each other. Like, what's going to be the reason we're all together? Because we try to make that as interesting as possible. So usually, a ship is being attacked by a pirate ship, and one of the players is a pirate on the pirate ship. So that's how they met the players that are getting their asses kicked in their ship. When they get when they get boarded and they get taken to the brig on one of the other ships, that's how they all meet each other. And they find out that one of the crew members knows somebody who can mutiny this ship that they're currently on, and then they have whatever, some weird politic thing we come up with. It depends. Sometimes it's just fighting, barehanded knuckle fighting. Sometimes it's bribing. Sometimes it's diplomacy that happens. Sometimes there's just a third faction, unknown. The alien spawn thing on board the ship, the green slime, something, and it just eradicates anyone who has a certain gene. And that's how you whittle it down to, it's just us left. We got to work together, and our ship, by the way, is going to crash into this planet. It needs to be powered up again because somebody sabotaged it. And the good ship blew up. Now we're stuck with the bad ship that's been damaged in battle.
Yeah.
And we got alien spores loose, and we get, it's a one shot. So
yeah,
already there's stressful situations. And then that they all kind of figure out how they met and how they work together, and they decide who gets to live and die halfway through because there's not enough lifeboats for everyone, that kind of thing.
And then you just pick up the next episode with a totally different scenario, different group.
Different scenario, or it continues on the planet they crashed on. Maybe the players generate characters that lived on that planet. They found this
Yeah.
rubble and debris. They've been waiting to be rescued. They've been, or it's a penal colony of some sort. They've been looking for a way to escape. Here's their chance. A ship. It still works, maybe.
Yeah. Well, and that, that kind of lends itself to, the players just being much more bold in their actions, because they know, we have this 3 or 4 hour session maybe that, this is as long as we might be playing these characters. So I'm not going to waste my time, humming or, like, I don't know what I want to do next or whatever. It gets much more faster pace.
Yeah, the characters are already established. They're already middle-aged. They've already lived their lives. They have all the skills they need. There are no zeros to hero characters. They're already semi-hero. They thought they were going to retire on a luxury cruise ship for the rest of their lives, but then pirates took over the ship and
they already have 1 foot in a crate, right? 1 foot in a casket, so might as well go, go bold anyway, right?
Like the aliens looking for Earth, and they don't want the alien to find out where Earth is, and they're the only thing between the alien race and Earth, and they have to sacrifice something.
Yeah. So here's a question for you. Ever feel like tempted to go take a one shot longer?
Oh, if the one shot's really good and the players are still, what do they call it? They're like immersed. They don't want it to end. Then we stretch it out to 2 one shots in a row with the same characters. So we just keep doing one shots after another until we've all decided that we've done everything we can with our characters. Or, maybe we get bored of the characters. We want to make new ones. And we continue on in that same situation, just with the new characters been added.
Yeah. Like they have some connection, to either what was going on or maybe a connection to the character that just died or whatever. And so,
we got the princess to marry the prince on this planet, and so she's leaving. She's gone. So that player needs to make a new character.
Right.
Maybe they're from that same race that the princess or the prince was. The prince and the princess, different races. They have to marry, so there's diplomacy between worlds. Blah blah blah. Maybe one of the players wants to play a race from that planet instead of a human or something.
Yeah, and that's I know. Like during some of our discussions of what is a campaign, and trying to get to that question, like what is a campaign, people have different definitions for it, but one of the things that I keep on saying is that as long as you have some type of a continuity, along a single timeline, that's what becomes a campaign. So if you have 5 players with 5 characters, as long as one player and one character is still around, everybody else has, every character has died, or all the other 4 players have left and taken their characters with them for whatever reason. For that one player with that one character, the campaign is still alive. And now you can introduce new players with their own characters. It's still part of that first campaign. The continuity hasn't been broken. It's only when everybody has gone, whether it's player characters or players, then your campaign has come to a close. At least that's my interpretation of what a campaign is.
Yeah. Have you ever played Morrow Project?
I've heard about it, never played it. But
that one's episodic
on my list. Yeah.
Every game session, the players are tracking down another bunker to find weapons and supplies and maybe survivors of the atomic wars and stuff.
And the Morrow Project is a precursor of what other game? Or is it the result?
Well, there were 3 games back in the 80s. There were 3 games. There was Morrow Project, Gamma World, and Aftermath. So you picked one.
So you picked there were three
You
separate
picked
games though.
Three separate
and
games. They all were released around the same year. You
Okay.
picked one because you didn't have a job and you had no money, so you can only buy one game at Toys R Us.
Yeah.
I picked Marvel Project because it seemed realistic. That was when I was into
Right.
my realistic phase where you trace the bullet as it goes through someone's body and you find out which organs it hits. It was very cross-sectional. And
Yeah.
when I was 18, I thought, oh, this is the best thing ever.
Right.
Now I realize, okay, we don't have to go that detailed. Just tell me, did it go through your armor and get you or no? That's all I need to know.
Yeah.
Because Traveler, your hit points are your attributes. So when your attributes go down, you're dead.
So they say you've been busy today. Shadow and Son. Hey, Shadow. Shoner, you've been busy today.
Well, today's my day off, so I'm always making videos on Fridays and Saturdays.
Okay.
I got my pizza, so I'm all set.
Yeah, I'm going to save hex crawling because hex crawling is very similar to this. I'm going to say that for a different.
Have you ever done a search? Have you ever done a search on YouTube for hex crawl? What it means, and you get 100 different answers from 100 different videos?
Well, it's like anything. It's like when you ask about, what is a campaign, you'll get 15 different, 15 different answers, and it all boils down to, I think everybody eventually adopts their own definition of virtually everything. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, everybody functions with their own definitions of things, and it's almost like asking people, well, what is fun? No one can give you a definitive, this is the definitive answer of what is fun, or what is sadness or what is misery or whatever. We might have some common things. So it's like, yeah, that's, having a root canal done, I think, is universally, a displeasurable experience. I don't think very many people out there, oh joy, I get to go for another root canal. But but for the most part, I think people just they're going to form their own definitions, and that's what they roll with. And it's very hard to break them from those definitions too. It's like once they get it, it's.
I want to say if the players come back, then they had fun in the last game session. So I don't question what their level of fun was or what fun is to them. For me, during the game session, I'm not thinking, oh, this is fun.
Yeah.
I'm thinking this is cool. This is intense. This is strenuous. Am I going to get through this session? Because
right.
I'm in character. I'm about to die, and I'm trying to think how are we going to get through this? And it's nerve-wracking, and my heart's pounding. And then after the game session's over, you can go, whew, we survived. That was so cool. And then we talk about the fun stuff, like what did we like about the session? What was the best parts? What could we do? What could we have done better? Feedback, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I think fun becomes the collective of everything combined up, so it's like it's all those things, like, so you spoke about, well, it was very tense, it was I had a real, feeling of suspense or risk, or my character got, was almost killed, or my character did this, my character did this extraordinary thing, and then when you sit back after everything's done, after the session is over, and then you think about it, and if you're asked, well, how was that overall experience? Oh, it was fun. You took everything and combined it up into that one, that one term, to be like a catch-all of the overall experience. And I think that's why when people say, well, we're here to have fun, it's just it doesn't have all the inner components of it, put out there, when people say I'm just having fun. So when they say it, it's important, but I think it would be best to try to dig in and say, well, what exactly was fun for you. You know, if
Yeah.
you're the GM, you want to know, well, what elements of this, you know, you want to break it down a little bit.
Yeah, because the another part of the fun I'm thinking of is when I'm making a character. Before a game session, I'll be making a character. I'm having fun making my character. And I'm thinking, oh, this would be a fun character to role play. This is going to be fun, how we introduce my character into the game.
Mm-hmm.
The other characters are going to like how we all meet each other at the beginning. That's going to be the fun part. And that lasts about 10 minutes. And then we have to go and immerse ourselves and start role playing. And then we're not thinking about fun anymore. We're just in character.
Yeah.
And we're doing what our characters think and would feel and stuff like that. If our characters are having fun, I guess we would be having fun. If the characters are going through the grind, then yeah, the player probably is thinking, "Oh, I'm not having fun right now with my character."
Right.
But there's ups and downs, and we don't do the rapey thing. We don't do slavery things. We don't. If there's sex, if there's any kind of sex, that just fades to black, and then we go to the next morning real quick.
Mm-hmm.
We don't go into weird details and stuff. We don't. What's that word? No, my mind is a blank now. What's that word? Cringe. We don't cringe ourselves. We don't go, ew.
Yeah. You don't put yourself
we
in this
keep
situation
it we
where...
keep it, rated PG kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, that's what I try to do too. And I think most, I've made this argument. There are very, very few RPGs that aren't written at the PG-13 level. I can maybe name, one or two that are rated R, and then there's some that are rated G, obviously, like My Little Pony or, whatever they actually call that. There is an actual game, My Little Pony RPG. But for the bulk of them, probably like 90% of the market, they're all written at PG-13. There's nothing in them that is going to be, even edgy, if you want to say it that. It's like those are pushing the envelope on the one extreme,
like World of Darkness. Isn't that just PG-13, do you think?
It probably is. It's probably, it might be getting towards that. If you're using the rating system, like what do they call it? Like Y14, like Youth 14 they developed, or the NC-17 was
young
like
adult stuff.
Yeah. It's like, it might be NC-17.
I know there's language. There's language in those games.
There's language, and there's probably there's sexual innuendo and those kinds of things. The whole thing about vampires has always been a play on a sexual experience. So it's
even then I still remember just fast forwarding through the just fade to black stuff.
Yeah.
I never played the werewolf one. I played the mage one, and I played the vampire one.
Call of Cthulhu could push to, an NC-17 level, depending on how graphic you let either the insanity go or how graphic you let the violence go. But yeah, that could definitely be, at the same level as, as World of Darkness.
Did they have chainsaws in the 1920s?
No, I don't believe so. No,
I don't think they did.
No.
But let's say if they did, though, your character would be going crazy in Cthulhu and grab a chainsaw, but instead of cutting the heads off random people, you're cutting off your own head. That's usually how Call of Cthulhu goes.
Right. Yeah.
It's self-mutilation of some sort, because you're getting closer to the perfect being that's in your head.
Yeah. There's there's certain things that, like in Lovecraft's writing, that you can actually say, all right, I can see where that is, the forms of insanity they go through, or the occult things that they go through, or I remember this one story.
Sacrificing the girl, right? And she's naked, and they got all these cultists, and the minute you get a clear view of what's going on, it's already in your head, and you're already writhing on the ground, going insane, trying to not vomit and stuff. So you don't know exactly what the performance is all about down in the basement.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, you're on board some weird spaceship, and your friend's brain is in a jar, and you're next.
Or a box. There's actually a story where the brains are put into a metal box with the wires coming out of it, and that's how they transfer, and that's how they're able to transcend their physical form and travel to the alien planet or whatever. So that's definitely a story. Reanimator too. I mean, Reanimator was.
There's a lot of passing out in Call of Cthulhu, so you miss out on all the good stuff. You never quite know what the mystery was that you were investigating. Because now you're in a white jacket or a white straight jacket in someone's hospital, and you're only allowed to use crayons to write on the padded ceiling or whatever.
Yeah, we used to say, my gaming group used to say all the time, there's only 3 conclusions to a Call of Cthulhu adventure. You died, you went insane, or you never engaged. You took one look at it, you turned and you ran. It's like, but you never completed. There was no completion. Like you never conquered the adventure. You know what I'm saying? There was no winning the adventure. There was either, you survived, or you had some variation of, total failure. So there was no, hey, I defeated the creature. No one beats Cthulhu. It's like, I defeated Cthulhu.
I probably mentioned this one time where I'm like 19 or 20 playing Call of Cthulhu, and I didn't know what H.P. Lovecraft even was, and my friends barely knew, and we're playing the game and we're doing it wrong. We're playing it like Indiana Jones. We all have fanny packs with dynamite sticks in them, and we're throwing dynamite down a manhole until the thing down there is dead. That's not how you do it. That's not how it's done.
Let's see.
You could probably kill the cultists coming after you, but not the old ones.
So the chainsaw came out in 1926. Okay. So I guess you could have had.
Yeah, most of the stories take place 1920 or 1919.
Yeah. They take
Telephone
place,
was barely a thing.
Yeah.
Trains were on time, though.
Well, yeah. Well, there were probably fewer of them running, actually.
Because you had to take the train to go talk to your professor friend at another university about something. And by the time you get there, he's already warped because he's been touching the idol. Says, "Don't open the box I sent you." Oh, it's too late.
Yeah. So getting back to that question, the only, and I've never played it, but I guess the only real rated R RPG out there is probably Fatal, which everybody, I don't think anybody actually, you'll never find anybody playing it. Plus, it's like 900 pages long. That's just the one book of it. That one rule book of it is 900 pages long, and it has everything you can imagine.
Which game is this?
Fatal.
Oh, Fatal is 900 pages?
Yes, it's 900 pages.
What?
Yeah.
In my head, I assumed it was just a floppy, like 28 pages.
No, it's 900 pages long.
Wow.
I have a PDF of it someplace. Yeah.
Wow.
It's 900 pages long. And from what I understand, it was written by somebody who was fairly young, like a teenager wrote it. And I was impressed that a teenager would actually write a 900 page game.
Here's Never Unprepared.
The Complete Game Master's Guide to Session Prep. Oh, who wrote that?
It's just a little thin floppy. This is Phil Vencione something, with a forward by Sean Patrick Fannin. I guess he's the guy from Drive-Thru. It's made by Engine Publishing. So Engine Publishing about 10 years ago wrote a bunch of these books for Dungeon Masters. And making hooks and little adventures
Yeah.
and making NPCs and hooks.
Yeah, I
Mostly
think I got a book by Matt Finch that's like that, how to write an adventure. I got it someplace here. And he wrote that primer, the primer for the OSR as well. So that's another thing that I would
Here's the
actually
other one.
haven't gotten that yet.
The same guy wrote this book, Odyssey,
I heard you talking about that earlier.
The Complete
the
Game
Odyssey.
Master's Guide to Campaign Management.
Hmm.
And then there's a bunch of other ones like focusing the light on characters and spotlighting characters. And they did one called Masks. That's their NPC book and patron book. It's got like thousands of NPCs you can encounter. Each one of them has a quest of some sort. And you just drop it into your game.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
Then I've got all of RPG Pundit's stuff.
I have a few of his things. I have like his I have Lion and Dragon and Dark Albion, and Star Adventurer. I have
this is Focal Point. This one is the Complete Game Master's Guide to Running Extraordinary Sessions. I haven't read this one yet, so I don't know if it's real or if it's just hyperbole or what.
Well, I have Venture Satanis's, how to game master like a fucking boss.
and Grimm did a book on safe space or something.
Yeah, I have a few of their books. Grim Jim wrote a rated R version. Actual Fucking Monsters is a rated R RPG. So that I would say is rated R. And even that's kind of, I mean, it's graphically violent, but it's not fatal extreme. It's not to that point. You're not having, the harming of women or children or anything like that in it. It's
not fatal.
Yeah, it's not fatal.
It's not made or fatal or
it's not designed to be offensive. Let's put it that way.
But I think that's pages. That still seems a bit much.
Yeah, no, it's. I have the PDF someplace. Before the trove shut down.
What chapter is the largest chapter in that book? I wonder.
Let me see.
Lore. I can't imagine it being more than 40 pages of rules, and then the rest is just what?
Let's see.
Is it just encounter tables of every situation ever?
I gotta find it. Let's see. Where is my RPG?
I got Traveler 5, and that's 1,000 something pages if you count up all the books.
Oh, I don't have it on this drive.
And the weird part about Traveler 5 is they can't remove anything from the game or it breaks the game. So they have to have all those pages for the game to work as written. It's kind of weird. It's like, isn't there anything you could have cut out? Make it 200 pages? Nope.
I have it someplace. On my hard drive. I don't remember how it was registered.
All my PDFs are on my old hard drive, which I'd have to plug in to get access to.
Yeah, I'd have to do the same thing. I'd have to either do it on my portable hard drive or, look for it. But it is 900 pages. And I'm not quite sure how old the author was. But I recall somebody saying that he was a teenager when he wrote it, and so that's what made me impressed. I was like, a teenager wrote 900-page RPG. That alone is impressive. Whether as whether the game was all that great or not. I've also heard that the game is actually not mechanically bad. It's just too much of it, and then it was written like a 13-year-old. With out of control hormones wrote it, kind of thing. But
what do you think about games like Hackmaster or Roll Master. I guess those are thick books too.
Well, yeah, but they're crunchier.
Is it
Like,
mostly just charts that you're going through?
oh God, Rollmaster I tried once, and I spent about 4 hours creating a character, and I still had points to spend, and I was like, I don't care. I was like, I threw out like 250 points. I was like, I can't keep on creating this character. I want to play. And then I played it, and it wasn't just a two-hit chart that you had to do. First, you had to roll, and then there was this huge chart that you had to look through. And then there was another huge chart that you had to see, well, based on this roll, and then like a secondary roll, do I actually do damage? I was like, it was so complicated. I was like, this is torture, literally torture. I was like, there's, I thought that calculating carrying capacity in villains and vigilantes was complicated. This here was like, I was like, who the hell could play this way? Yeah. So I never tried to play it again.
Because before I'll play a game, I'll read the mechanic, and if I don't like the mechanic, I never play the game. And I kind of remember the mechanic being where you're rolling percentile dice, and you have to roll 100% to even do the thing, and then you have modifiers above that to see how well you did.
Right, and then even then there was then additional modifiers to see. So you might have hit, and you might have gotten past their armor, and then you might have, now you're going to see what damage you might have done. And there's still a chance that you've done no damage because you're hit and you're circumventing the armor still isn't going to produce. And that was almost every single time. I was like, how the hell you hit anything in this and do
like,
damage?
I'm at 170% efficiency and I'm still like just Joe Schmo farmer. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Oh, you need 280% to be able to hurt something. Oh, come on.
Yeah, it was brutal. It literally was. It was the hardest character generation that I've ever had to do. Literally left points on the table. I said, I just don't want to spend them anymore. You run into that a little bit with GURPS too. It's like, I got stuck with these extra points. I don't know how to spend them. I'm just not going to bother.
The trick there is to just spend it on luck. Just buy luck.
Yeah.
That's what everyone does in GURPS is 50 points of luck. Take the disadvantages, but buy the luck.
Yeah.
So the Morrow Project, I remember as a kid, I bought that game for dirt cheap, and it was first edition. I opened up the book, and I couldn't understand the mechanics of the combat system, and it was too realistic. It had actual facsimiles of NORAD targets of Russia and bases and the blast range and the rads and all that stuff. It was too much for me. So I put it, and it used all the weird dice, which I didn't have. And so I put the book down, or I gave it to some friend of mine. And then years later, like maybe 10 years later, I'd buy the game again, not realizing it was the revised third edition of the game. And I opened the book up, and out falls these pages. I'm like, what? The book's falling apart already? And what they did was they just threw in a couple sheets of BRP rules from Chaosium. And they didn't bother to put the pages in that were the original game mechanic. So that's how they fixed the book. So I always make sure when I open the book to not let those pages fall out, because that's the actual rules of the game is the D100 rules that they went to. They thought that'd be a way simpler mechanic, and it is. And then 4th edition Morrow Project just went with that idea. Just go with the D100 roll mechanic. I don't know anyone who bought it except for maybe Anthony Boyd. Do you know him? He's a Runeslinger on YouTube.
Oh yes, yeah, I've seen his videos.
He's the only person I know that bought Morrow Project 4th edition. It was a Kickstarter thing, and he's big on Kickstarter.
The only person that bought the Kickstarter
that I know of.
Yeah,
well, on YouTube, I'm sure a lot of people bought it, but he's the only person I know on YouTube that did an unboxing. He unboxes everything he gets from Kickstarter. He has all the fancy dice you'd ever think of, and he has all the games you'd ever think of. He's a collector for sure. I used to be a collector of RPGs.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was doing for a while there. I was trying to, trying to recover everything that I had when I was younger, and then I went kind of overboard. It was like, well, I never played this before, but I want to hear a lot of people talking about it. And then at some point I was like, you know what, I'm not buying any more retro clones. I have two. There's no reason to have, 10 different versions of D&D BX. I wish they would revive some of those older games, though.
Why do you have that many versions of that rule?
Yeah, that's I just started getting to the point where it's like I was like, there's just too much out there, so even though they all have like little different twists and everything, it was just too much, so I was like, no, I don't need that same rule set, in 10 different variations of it. I wish they would recreate some, and do some retro clones of things like Bushido. Bushido RPG was, that was a fun game to play. There was Sword Bearer, that really enjoyed too. But Bushido could use a modernized version, because that was another crunchy game.
Yeah.
That the combat system was very clunky. It was very, very difficult to like sort certain things out and everything. So when I played that, because I created an adventure and I ran it at several conventions, I kind of D&D'ized it, to us. Oh no, you're just going to roll a D20 and see if you hit, and your weapon damage is this and everything. And I just discarded all of the other rules that they had for, their combat system, and really replaced it with a basic D&D combat system, just to make it more manageable to run in a 3-hour session. Otherwise you could spend, 3 hours doing 2 combats. I actually wrote the adventure based on just the one scene from Shogun, the hanging of the pheasant scene, if you remember that scene.
I saw that on TV when I was a kid. I don't remember.
Yeah. So that was the premise of the entire adventure, and actually the adventure was called The Pheasant. So it was just built on that, one scenario where the basically what happened was a wandering samurai hangs up a pheasant to fester in the sun for a while before he wants to eat it. So he wanted it to be very gamey. Yeah. And a peasant just couldn't take it anymore. It was like he was too repulsed by the idea of this thing. So he cut down the pheasant, and then prepared himself, because he had, disrespected the samurai by doing that. So he prepared himself to be executed, and the samurai did kill him. But the other peasants in the town, because the guy was very much revered, and so they were, really upset by this, outsider, even though he was a samurai. And then I forget how how Shogun, the TV show Shogun, resolved that issue. I think that the samurai just went off. But in my scenario, I had that there was a group of Yakuza in the area that were going to try to kill the samurai without anybody else knowing it, and being able to, trace it back to their town, where the local shogun would then punish the entire town for killing a traveling ronin, but that kind of a game system could really use a modern touch, just to make it much more playable. A lot of those fantasy, that was Fantasy Games Unlimited, which is defunct, so it's like
they did Space Opera, right?
Yeah, they say that you can reach out to them, and if you wanted to create something for their game systems, but nobody answers the email address. You know what I'm saying? It's like they don't respond to the emails.
Well,
so
how old is the guy, and does he know how to use the internet? That kind of thing.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Does he have a phone number?
Yeah,
Is his phone
but
number in the white pages
yeah,
still?
yeah.
Still
It
lives in
would
the
be
same
nice.
house?
It would be nice if it would be nice if somebody would just pick up their IPs and regenerate them, because they still sell their IPs. They still sell, Bushido. You can still buy it online from them directly, but there's no actual people behind it. It's so weird, that you can't reach out to customer service. Hey, who runs this company? There doesn't seem to be anybody.
Yeah, that's how the company that did FTL 2448, that's how they are. I ordered
Yeah,
something from them and it's like, is this just an app on someone's phone I'm talking to and it just
yeah,
spits out PDFs or what? It's like,
yeah,
what?
yeah. Or print on demand. Yeah, you could still get this stuff on print on demand. I think it's totally automated.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody actually, does work there. It might just go into somebody's trust fund, or whatever, somebody's estate.
Yeah, every once in a while someone says, "Oh, thank you for buying my book." And I'm thinking, "Oh, I pay $40 for a hardcover book and they probably made $2 from the sale." The game writer. Because most of the money goes to printing and then the drive-through RPG, they get a big chunk of the profit. So you have to, if you're going to make money selling RPGs on drive-through, you have to be like Pundit and just have 1,000 different books,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you sell them for $3 or $4 each, and hope for the best. Some people will collect all of them over time.
Yeah, I think I've made more off of their affiliate program than I have off of publishing. Although it's fine. I mean, I don't care. It's not like it's not like I'm looking for it to support me. It pays it pays the monthly for StreamYard.
Oh,
You know
that's
what I'm
good.
saying? Yeah,
Oh, that's good.
yeah. It essentially pays me for yeah, it probably comes close to paying for StreamYard. So $25 a month. Whatever. It's like between that and YouTube and everything, I might be able to, go buy buy a game, buy a PDF or whatever, and then just show that on the channel, and go over that. So it kind of like perpetuates, self-perpetuates itself. I think YouTube, I probably make about $100 every 3 months. So like I said, it covers being able to buy something once in a while and show it up on a channel. But it doesn't. When I get into those big buying sprees, then it's like, you know what? It's like, that's why I passed up OSE. I was like, oh, that's 3 months of YouTube just to buy that, buy another retro clone.
Yeah, I won't buy a game unless I know for sure I'll play it at some point.
Yeah, that's the other thing that like I grabbed the most recent one that I did back was was Blade Runner. All right, that's being put out by Free League.
You mean you
Um,
pre-ordered that one?
yeah, it's on
or is it out?
Kickstarter. That's a Kickstarter.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll have to go look.
so-
I didn't know that was on Kickstarter yet. I thought it was still talked about.
yeah, no, it's on Kickstarter already.
I'll have to
So
look and see their video promo for it.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that is I'm hoping that is more like the first movie, and it has that kind of feel to it and everything, more so than Cyberpunk, because I think Blade Runner was different than Cyberpunk in many ways, and this is probably more so in your wheelhouse than mine. Yeah, I think Blade Runner was lower technology, if that's a little bit less cyberware, than Cyberpunk is.
I'm trying to remember how Sid Mead described it when I asked him about that. He was a futurist. I remember that part.
Mm-hmm.
But he had a name for all the knickknacks that he would design for movies.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember exactly what it was. I got it in one of my emails somewhere from him. But he based his stuff on what you could actually build, like Deckard's apartment.
Mm-hmm.
It was basically Frank Lloyd Wright modular blocks, in his house, in his apartment. And then you had just modern day building on the outside. You had facades on all the skyscrapers. It was all doable, except for the RNA recombination sequence. We can't do that yet.
Yeah.
4-year lifespan, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But everything else, the flying spinner car, we can do that now, maybe differently than how the movie did it.
Right.
Because they got flying cars right now.
Yeah, they're just not very.
They look like drones
practical.
almost.
Yeah.
They look like oversized drones that people can fit in. And we got the thing where you look at the eyeball and do the perspiration and the blood pressure, and we got the psionics that can tell if you're lying or not, all this kind of stuff.
Right.
But well, there was the off-world. We haven't gone off-world yet.
Well,
so what didn't you like about 2049?
Not that I didn't like it. I just think that it's a different genre than what I think Blade Runner is. It just strikes me as being a little different. Plus, I only know cyberpunk from video games, rather than rather than just like the movies or whatever. The novels that I know of that tie more into cyberpunk is like Gibson's novels, like Burning Chrome and Johnny Mnemonic and those movies there, which I think are again a little bit more technologically advanced than what Blade Runner is. At least that's
and wetware and those kinds of stories from the 80s. Neuromancer, those books, it's all about implants.
Yeah.
Getting surgically altered. You can choose basically if you want wings like an eagle so you can fly, but the wings are made of aluminum, and you've got the perfect vision like an eagle would have, and you have long ass fingernails that have venom squirt into the person you grab.
Yeah.
And you're basically an assassin paid by mega corporations to go and infiltrate areas and take out the competition. And Japan was a thing back then.
Yeah.
We all thought that Japan was going to run the country in the next 10 years. And then 1987 happened, and Japan never recovered from that to this day. But think of Blade Runner more as noir. That's how it was filmed.
Right.
Mystery, kind of Humphrey Bogart kind of a thing, the big sleep, but in the future. That's all Blade Runner was.
Right.
And the people just have other people's memories.
Yes.
That's how I think of Blade Runner.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a like a darker feel to it, in a way. At least that's how I see it. It's a darker, grittier, kind of feel to it.
The replicants were made to do the dirty work. They went to off-world and built colonies because they could live without atmospheres and stuff like that. And after 4 years, they die. So they don't have to complain about, disability. They want pensions and stuff. No, they die off. And then you have new replicants go out there and do more work in the mines and get the fancy metals that the jump drives on the ships need, that kind of thing. What do they call those precious metals? Like in Africa, South Africa, they got the trucks that haul the diamonds from the caves to the ship docks or whatever, the refineries. those big giant trucks that are 6 floors high,
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
autonomous. They drive themselves.
Yeah.
There's no one in those things. So they got GPS now on all the trucks, and they can track where the trucks are going, how often they get reloaded, where they get dropped off at, who's
Right.
trying to steal one. You know, if it goes off the road right away, the alarms go off, so they know to go after a big giant truck that might be on someone's dirt road heading into a small village with a bunch of diamonds on it. Or it just shuts off. Usually, I want to say the trucks just shut off if they go off the road.
If they go off the road, yeah.
And then you can't move the thing because it's 6 floors high.
Yeah.
Just one tire is like 15 feet high in diameter. That's how big the wheels are on the trucks. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah, we're getting some of the answers, I guess. Unopotanium?
Dystopian.
Yeah, dystopian is the genre, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about
that. Future.
I want to say all of Philip K. Dick's stuff is dystopian by default.
Yeah.
But he did it in a 60s style. So imagine if they had filmed Blade Runner like it was being made in the 60s, what it would look like. That would have been something. They tried to keep with some of that because the girls did have the go-go boots on.
Yeah.
And
you'd have Logan's Run.
Yeah, Logan's Run.
Run. Yeah.
Yeah, everything was neat. I wanted to see more of Logan's Run. I thought that movie ended too soon.
Yeah.
They see the old man and then the movie's over. I want to see more about what's outside the city, what's Washington, D.C. like, and they never made a sequel. I think they had a TV show, but I never watched the TV show.
I don't remember the TV show. I didn't see Logan's Run until probably about 15, 20 years after they made it.
Oh, I saw it 3 times in the theater. I thought this is the best movie ever.
When did it come out?
76.
Oh, really?
It was one of MGM's last big.
All right.
Brouhaha.
So I was only 9 then.
What? Okay.
Yeah, I was 9 in 76.
You have an excuse. So. I was only 9. I think I was 13 or 12 or something.
All right. Yeah. So I was only 9.
I'd ride my bike and go see it for 100. Was it not 100? It was 150 pennies. I can go see that movie.
No, 77 was the big year for movies. For me. So it was like, you had Jaws, you had Star Wars, you had
Close Encounters.
You had Kentucky Fried Movie. You had
Towering Inferno.
Yeah, I didn't see that until television. That wasn't my thing.
Rollerball.
Dawn of the Dead.
Dawn of the Dead. That was 78, I think.
Oh, maybe it was 78. Yeah. The Shining was the first Shining.
That was 80.
80?
Yeah.
All right, 80. Yeah. Yeah. So those years for movies were, 77, 78, 79. Big time for movies of my youth. Let's say.
I want to say the Logan's Run show was canceled after 6 episodes or something.
Yeah, I don't know when.
It was around the same time Planet of the Apes had their TV series.
Yeah, I used to watch that.
And then Battlestar Galactica came and mopped up the place with its show.
Yep.
Buck Rogers thought they could do the same. I laughed. No, you can't use Twiki to do a TV show with. It's not going to last. It lasted 1.5 seasons, I think, because the next season was ridiculous. They got rid of their main characters and replaced some guy with a hawk, half man, half hawk character.
I remember that. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah, I remember that thing.
Space 1999 did the same thing. There's third season or second season, they added in a girl who could morph into an eagle or something. It's like, oh, come on. It's bad enough.
That half hawk thing, yeah.
The moon is in a different star system every week, and now they add this nonsense. Come on. But I was never a fan of
Silent Green, Silent Running.
Yeah, there was Omega Man. All dystopian.
Yep.
And then whatchamacallit, Woody Allen comes along and makes fun of it all. With his what was that movie called? Sleeper. The guy who wakes up like 400 years in the future and makes fun of Republicans.
Oh, I don't
everyone's
remember that one.
Everyone's a hippie in the future.
Yeah.
It was kind of cute.
Mm.
But people wanted their dystopian dark future movies until about the time Star Wars came out.
Yeah.
And then that rewrote the sci-fi books.
Mm-hmm.
Movie studios wanted everything to be Battle Beyond the Stars or Last Starfighter or Star Crash or, let's do more Barbarella stuff maybe. So they did.
Yeah.
V was a TV show.
Yeah, V. Yeah.
Stuff like that was showing up out of the woodwork. Saturday Morning had stuff too. Jason of Star Command. And then that morphed into another show. I can't remember. I tried watching some of those, but by that time I was at an age where I was too old to watch those kinds of things. And then
Ice Pirates. Yeah, Ice Pirates.
Yeah, Ice Pirates was one.
And Ice Pirates was with wasn't that with the actor? Was that Gil Gerard?
The Vegas guy.
Oh, the Vegas.
I don't know his name.
I thought it was the guy from
Robert something.
Oh, Eric Robert? Not Eric Roberts. Robert Urich.
Yeah.
All right, Robert Urich.
But then if you fast forward 20 years, you get the cool movies like Fifth Element.
Well, that's probably 30 years. Fifth Element was early 2000s.
Well,
right?
I want to say 97, 96, right. 97.
Yeah.
Probably 97.
Yeah, that is good. That's a funny movie. That's a good movie.
So, what, 10 years, 12 years after Return of the Jedi, I guess, you start seeing the good stuff.
Yeah, Gil Gerard was Buck Rogers, yes.
They had the computers, so they could do stuff like Starship Troopers, Fifth Element, RoboCop. RoboCop was done in the 80s, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, Arc 2. One day I want to show a movie. It's called Arc. It takes place in the future. Maybe get some of you guys to live stream with me. It's only a 20-minute long movie.
Really?
I saw it as a kid in elementary school, and it freaked me out. It's a sci-fi short school education film about the environment and how we're ruining the environment, and Earth is going to have acid rain, and everyone's going to die, and everyone's going to have to live in glass houses. Did you ever see that movie?
No, I've never seen it, or at least I don't recall. Maybe I had when I was a kid, teenager, but I don't recall.
The original director was going to do a Kickstarter and release a 4K version of that movie, but he died, so it was never done. But I still got the old 16 whatever print. I want to show it one day.
Yeah,
it's all blurred and scratchy, but you still get the gist of it.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Wow, it's running late.
Oh yeah, Tron, okay. Time Bandits.
Yeah, Tron,
Black Hole.
Yeah, all of those
Saturn
movies,
3.
What was the older one with the what was it? Forbidden Planet? Yeah. That was with the id. Yeah, Forbidden Planet. That was a real, for an older movie. When I finally saw that movie and everything, that was just it just had such a feel to that movie. It was really, really cool, because I didn't see that until probably the 80s, and that's a much older movie. Forbidden Planet's got to be
57.
57. All right. Yeah, I knew it was either 50s or 60s. But
it was MGM, and Disney did the special effects for that.
Yeah, that was a good movie.
I
like
wanted,
kind of scary, right? Because of the id, it was like, you never actually see the thing, and they created it in their own minds or something like
yeah,
that, and then it took a
yeah,
life of its own, and that was a really cool movie.
yeah. They were using psionics that were
Hmm.
powered by some sort of atomic generator from the planet's core.
Yeah,
So they had unlimited energy to power up. From energy, they would convert to matter, whatever you were thinking. So
what was
the
that?
Krell somehow destroyed themselves because they got too happy with that new power of
Right?
theirs.
Is that what Jeannie Francis? I want to say,
Something Francis,
yeah, Jeannie Francis, I
I don't know,
believe, or
but her last name's
yeah,
Francis. I don't
yeah,
remember.
yeah, her first name, yeah.
She was only 18 in that movie, I think. And I saw it as a kid, but I was too young to understand what was going on. I just wanted to
Yeah,
see Robbie the robot, and Robbie the
yeah.
robot shows up in a few scenes. The cook wants him to synthesize certain bourbon or something, and Robbie's like, I need a taste of your bourbon so I
Oh, and Francis.
can make copies of it. So he gives Robbie drinks a bottle of his bourbon, and he's comes back later on with replicas of the bottle. Somehow he replicated the glass and the cork, and he's got like 30 of these bottles for the cook. So now the cook's wondering where he's going to hide this stuff, because you can't have that. He has to hide it from the captain. But that was a thinking man's sci-fi movie for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. Is like if I saw that as a kid, I probably wouldn't have, fully grasped it or really appreciated it. It was when I saw it when I was older, and I was either a late teenager, maybe even early 20s, when I finally saw that movie, and it really, really impressed me. Certain movies, like older movies, sometimes you have to be a certain age, in order to really get them. It's like they're just not meant for the teenage mind to fully grasp some of their nuances.
Yeah, some of the comic books were that way for me too, like X-Men from the 70s. I'm reading this stuff, but I'm just not comprehending what I'm reading. I'm just
Hmm.
reading the bubbles and like, okay, where's the punching? I want to see the punching. And half the time in X-Men, there's no punching. It's all talking. It's all diplomacy type
Hmm.
stuff. We need to make a peace treaty with Galactus, or he's going to eat us alive, that kind of thing. We need to go talk to Reed Richards about this Galactus problem. And I'm like, okay, I don't know enough about the Marvel Universe to even know what they're all talking about. It sounds all interesting. But now, when I read that stuff now, it's like, this is amazing stuff. They should make a movie about this, when I think they are making another Fantastic Four movie right now. Because they showed a glimpse of them in the last Doctor Strange movie, I think.
More punching. Yes, everything needs a little bit more punching.
Because I was always disappointed with the Hulk TV show. It always ended the same way. He was
Well,
some custodian, and he would have to move on to another
yeah.
town. It's
Well, it
so
was just like
sad.
it was like kung fu.
Yeah.
Same thing,
Yeah.
episodic. Always going to a different,
Yeah.
different town, no connection to the last episode, and
Almost like The
always the same
Fugitive.
story. Yeah.
It's like, oh, don't make me angry. You won't like me if I'm angry, that kind of thing. But I liked it when they finally, 30 years later, whatever, Marvel finally comes out with Tony Stark saying, Loki says to him, I have an army. And Tony Stark says, we have a Hulk.
Yeah.
That's like the best part of the
Yeah.
Avengers. Because I like the Ed Norton Hulk.
Well, Ed Norton's a great actor, so it's like,
And that took place in South America somewhere, and they found him, and then General Ross tracks him down. Mm-hmm. And I liked all that stuff. But the Sony version, I didn't care for the Sony version. He looked too much like a green Gumby character bouncing around.
Yeah, I think that's the one when he. That was
That
the
was
most recent one, right?
That was the first Hulk movie.
Oh,
from like 2000, I think. It had the guy Eric something from he was from the first Star Trek movie. In 2009, he played the Romulan.
don't remember. I'd have to look at it. Not Eric Stoltz, right?
No.
I'd have to look at not Eric Bannon. Eric Bannon.
I think so.
Yeah,
I
Eric
think that's his
Bannon.
name.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah. All right, let's see. You guys probably didn't have The Littlest Hobo in the U.S. Yeah, I don't recognize The Littlest Hobo.
I'd have to link, or it never happened.
Yeah. Well, it's not U.S. So who knows where it is? The Ang Lee Eric Bannon or Eric Bana.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ang Lee Eric Bana. Okay.
I've liked him in everything else, just not in the Hulk.
Yeah, he's not the same caliber as Ed Norton as far as an actor is concerned. Yeah, yeah.
But I remember
Norton was
he
probably
got
at the
wounded.
top of his game.
But I remember in that Ed Norton movie, the Hulk gets injured or something, or Ed Norton gets in, Bruce Banner, he gets injured and some of his gamma infected blood drips into like a Coca-Cola bottle or something.
Yeah.
And then that bottle ends up going into Stanley's mouth.
Yeah.
And it's like Viagra for him.
Yeah.
Because Stanley would show up in every one of those movies as some poor onlooker.
Well, they just came out and said that Stanley's going to be in the next 20 years worth of movies, right? They bought the rights of his image for 20 years or something like that. So
they were kind of doing that already.
Yeah,
because he was 90 and they have him running around and stuff.
Yeah,
so he was a CG character already. I liked it when they had Laurence Olivier show up in Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow. And
I never saw that movie.
He'd been dead for 20 years.
That's with Jolie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I never saw that movie.
I think she had an eye patch in that movie.
Yeah, she did.
I don't remember who's the guy. Jude Law?
Jude Law?
Jude Law?
Yeah.
I think he was the main guy. Yeah. I saw that in the theater.
Yeah, I never saw that.
That freaked me out when I saw Laurence Olivier. It's like, what the hell?
He's dead.
Did they get permission for this? Who?
Yeah.
I don't think there's an estate at all. He's public domain. Because they were doing that with Humphrey Bogart. But I'm sure Humphrey Bogart's grandkid gets something from that.
Yeah.
So the little hobo is a dog?
Oh, okay.
I'm thinking
the German Shepherd wanders from province to province helping random people.
No, we had to suffer through Lassie, which was a dude.
Yeah. How about we had the bionic dog too, right? There was a bionic dog after it was after Bionic Woman. They went with the bionic dog. What the freak?
I seem to remember something like that. Was it a German Shepherd?
Yeah, it was a German Shepherd. It was a bionic German Shepherd.
Run something.
It was a spinner. Run Rintintin? No, not Rintintin.
No,
that's all.
Run.
No, Run. You're right. It's Run something.
It Run horrible. Something. Whatever I'm making up, it sounds horrible.
You're right.
They should not have made what I'm thinking up right now.
I'm gonna have to look it up now. Bionic Dog Show.
Bionic Dog. First search find is the show. It's probably gonna be porn. Whatever you do, it's gonna be porn.
Now let's see. The Bionic Dog it was a Bionic Woman failed spinoff. The Bionic Dog. Let's see. What the heck was it called?
It got replaced by Brewster, I hope. Or the Gilligan's Island reunion, something like that. Or Battle of the Network Stars.
They're not saying the name. let's see. Let me read this whole thing. The bionic. It might have just been called the Bionic Dog. Could that be it?
I didn't get that channel when I was a kid.
Jamie learns that the bionic German Shepherd 6 years earlier. Blah blah blah. Jamie takes on, but yeah, what was the name of the? It was Run something, right?
I think so.
It was like
around the same time as Gemini Man. Do you remember that show? The guy with the watch. He could be invisible for like 15 minutes or some stupid thing.
No, I don't remember.
Or he could solve a mystery in 15 minutes. He had a watch.
Yeah, it just says the Bionic Dog. But there was something else. I know the show too. As soon as you said it, I was like, it's Run something. The dog's name was Max, short for Maximilian. Oh, it's going to drive me nuts, but I can't spend the time looking for it now. You know, yeah, we'll figure it out. But anyway, all right.
Do you remember the Lost Star?
No.
Or Star? No, it was called The Star Lost.
Nope. The Star Lost.
That was a Canadian show. It was good for about 2 episodes, and then after that, it stuck. It sucked. But that was a generation ship where some of the crew wakes up from hibernation, and it's all gonzo happening on board the generation ship because it's like hundreds of years later. People have evolved on the ship, and they don't know they're on a ship anymore, and the ship is on a collision course with a star. Yipes.
Electro Woman and Dyna Girl. I remember Dyna Girl. I don't remember Electro Woman. Or Superman TV show. Okay. Well, we're coming up on 3 hours. So, wow. So,
So Bluddworth, did you ever see the D&D cartoon?
Yes, I have it right here.
What?
So all 27 episodes. You can still get this on Amazon.
Okay, mine's in a box. I haven't opened it, so
yeah,
I'm hoping it's like what you have.
Yeah, it's 27 episodes. There's on the internet, maybe on YouTube or something.
Why do you have it right there on your desk?
Because I was doing a thing at the very beginning where, you see, Scott Garibay said that in one of his most recent videos, he said that because the new box set of Dungeons and Dragons is going to include characters from this, and one character from D&D Beckme. All right, so from that is Wizards of the Coast putting on the OSR crown, and so basically destroying the OSR by co-opting their characters and destroying the old school by co-opting their characters. But they themselves say that because WizKids is going to make new figures, and so they were like, but they're saying that they're only like inspired by, so they're not exactly the same characters. So I was like, listen, if you want, old school D&D cartoon, this is where you have to go. If you want the figures, and you're probably going to laugh, this is where you have to go with the figures back from, because I moved my my mother out of her home, and we went into the basement. I found all my toys from, the late 70s, early 80s, and so I was like, these are the figures, and his argument was that because WizKids is going to include these in in the newest version of 5e's basic set, that all of us grognards are going to go out and buy that set because it has these. I was like,
What?
all of us grognards are over 50
What?
years old. We're not going to run out and buy, a useless box set because there's toys in it. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
I was before the Happy Meal craze. I don't own any Happy Meal toys.
yeah, and I always describe D&D 5e as being the McDonald's hamburger of hamburgers out there.
Right.
So yes, you can clearly say that the McDonald's hamburger sells more hamburgers than any other hamburger in the world. All right, but no one considers that to be the best hamburger they ever ate. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so you're putting your crown on the fact, of something just based solely on the fact that it sells more. But no one considers the quality to be there. So why does it sell more? Because it's accessible. It's in every, it's in every Target.
Every strip mall.
Yeah, every strip mall you'll find it. And 5e, although the stores are disappearing, so I don't think that argument really stands. The only reason why local game stores sells 5e is because Wizards of the Coast makes them carry 5e, otherwise they cannot carry Magic the Gathering.
Oh, I see.
Their bread and butter is Magic the Gathering. Those 5e books, I go into my local store all the time, and I see the same stack of 5 books.
Yeah.
Of 5e, all they take up an entire shelf, so they have like 10 copies,
yeah, it's
10 different books, but it's the same 5 books.
Same books collecting dust.
Yep, they do not sell. But if they don't carry them, they don't get the newest boxes of Magic the Gathering.
Okay. Because have you noticed when you go into a game store, the 5e books, you have to kind of look for them. They're not in the main aisle. They're off in a corner, usually on the bottom shelf, kicked to the curb, usually underneath a bunch of Warhammer 40K pegboard stuff.
Yeah.
Like, oh, there's the D&D 5 books. Okay.
Yeah,
so you do have D&D here. Because they put their Numenera and they put their newest GURPS, Dungeon Fantasy, whatever it is, and they put their all their Kickstarter big book stuff, like the Alien, the Free League books and the Modifius books. Those are on the fancy shelves, nowhere near the dumpster shelves. They put the D&D stuff.
Yeah,
collecting dust.
Yeah, when I go into my local game store, which is a fairly large store, when I go in there, they might have 10 tables set up for gaming. I've never once seen anyone playing Dungeons and Dragons at any of those games, at any of those tables. It's always Magic the Gathering or some other card game or whatever, but it's never D&D or role playing.
Once I saw Starfinder at a game, at a table. That was once.
Yeah.
I've seen Pathfinder a few times in tables. But yeah, it's like what you said. It's mostly the Magic stuff, or it's Warhammer 40K taking up all the tables. Yeah, in the old days, I used to do a sample session of Traveler. But that was only when they were selling Traveler in the store. When they don't anymore. Right. Traveler's kind of an old thing now.
Dungeons and dumpsters.
But see, now I'm gonna have to watch my D&D cartoon to see if it has aged well or not. Because I still remember some of the stupid things, like he like us but not like us. When that one kid got turned into a bog beast.
Well, remember, they're throwing a first level party at Tiamat.
Well, see, when I was watching the show, 1983, 84, I didn't know who Tiamat was. I didn't know who that Venger guy was. He just seemed like the bad guy, and It's a cartoon. They're showing it on Saturday morning. No one's gonna get killed in this cartoon.
Yeah, of course
It
not.
was like Land of the Lost. They're trying to find their way home.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know if they were playing by D&D rules or not. Magic missile or the Rangers doing stuff and the acrobats doing things. Is she moving, in proper squares for her moves to do that stunt
Right.
she
Yeah.
did?
But she was a thief acrobat, which just was revealed around that time with the Unearthed Arcana. So I'm saying it's like they did have, they did have the representation of a character class that was just released at that time. So they at least had that. People also point to it and say, there was a lot of representation in that cartoon. I'm saying you had two females. You had one that was, whether she's African American or Caribbean or whatever, but you had a mixture of different types of characters there.
And you've seen the Renault commercial, right?
Yes, if they made that into a movie, they would be
same
fine.
exact diversity going on in that commercial.
Yeah, that the commercial was really well done. I was like, if they could only make a D&D movie with those people, they'd probably be better off than any of the crap that they put out.
I was shocked because the actors were doing the same thing that they were doing in the cartoons. I was shocked.
No, it was
the
really,
magician
really well
guy,
done.
the mage guy. He's always doing a spell. He's shocked that he could do it.
Yeah,
it worked. His reaction is always, "It worked." What did I do?
They did a phenomenal job, in that commercial. It was like, and you really forgot. Like I forgot even what they were looking to sell. You wouldn't even know it's a car commercial, unless you reminded yourself. It was really well done.
Every time I watch that commercial, I'm not even thinking about, they're selling cars.
Yeah.
I just think all I think of is, how did the dungeon master have a car?
Mm-hmm.
And then they just drive past him and he just disappears in the car. It's like, they're going to leave him behind. No, he just teleports into the car.
Yes, a barbarian was introduced in the Unearthed Arcana as well, same year.
And the kid, he doesn't really say much in the cartoon, right? He just hits things.
Yeah, he's always jumping ahead. Like he always has he's always going into rage and they always jumping forward.
Is he the Leroy character?
Yeah, he's like the Leroy character. And
let's do this.
And the
Eric
is a cavalier, right? I don't think he's a paladin. He's a cavalier.
He's the dick character, right? He's like a Dr. Smith character. He wants to murder everyone in their sleep, but he gets along with them because he too wants to get back to Earth.
Who, the cavalier?
I think so.
He's a coward. He's a coward. He's cowardly.
Yeah. Okay.
Or he doesn't want to. Yeah,
he doesn't want to kill. He doesn't ever want to trade his friends into Avengers just so he can get home himself or something.
Well, yeah, he might be selfish and everything, but he's a cavalier character. So he's the other one that's also a character class directly out of Unearthed Arcana.
Okay. See, I don't know these things. So if I'm watching the cartoon, I'm not going to know. Yeah. Oh, by the way, the lore is all wrong in this cartoon, by the way. I'm looking purely for entertainment value. Is the cartoon still as good as what D&D 6 is going to be when it's released, or if it's D&D?
No, the cartoon will be better than D&D 6.
I'm crossing my fingers. I'm thinking they're going to pull a surprise one on us and release a D&D 4th edition.
Re-release?
Did they ever come out with an AD&D 4th edition?
No. They would, if they were coming out with an advanced, they would be AD&D 3rd.
Oh, there wasn't an AD&D 3rd?
Nope.
Oh, I thought there was.
No.
So they just went D&D.
They just went from AD&D 2nd edition to D&D 3rd.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought 3rd
edition. They dropped the advanced.
Oh, okay. I thought D&D 3 had both advanced and regular.
No.
Oh, yeah, they should do that. Just surprise us and come out with the AD&D 3rd edition.
Well, what's his name? Joseph Block. Joseph Block basically says, I think I got his first name right. So he's the Greyhawk Grognard. So Joseph Block. He basically calls Adventures Dark and Deep a D&D 3rd edition. What he did was he compiled all of Gary Gygax's articles, and then he extrapolated from, based on these articles, and then looking at where AD&D 2nd edition was, he then says, well, this is what I believe Gary Gygax would have created as Advanced Dungeons and Dragons 3rd edition. All right, so now if you wanted to look like the, obviously Gary Gygax was saying that what is it called? Dangerous Journeys, I think, was his, not counting Cyborg Commando, but Dangerous Journeys, I think, was Gary Gygax's belief that this was the true successor of D&D. Then later on, when he started writing for Troll Lord Games and doing Castles and Crusades, then he said, oh no, this is actually the true successor of Dungeons and Dragons. So he was already, looking at 3rd edition, which he was alive to see 3rd edition, and I believe he was even alive to see 4th edition, I believe. But he certainly wasn't going to play them. And he was looking at other game companies and what they were producing and saying, these are truer successors of the game I created than, what Wizards of the Coast is doing.
I'm looking for a book that Gygax did around 87. And it was his double downing on how you play D&D. After he said it,
you mean his players book? I have that.
I got it somewhere. What was it called? I got too many PDFs open right now. Here we go.
It was Role-Play Mastery?
Yeah, Role-Playing Mastery.
And then it followed up with this one here, Master of the Game.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've got his role-play. I'm looking at his Role-Play Mastery, and I'm thinking, this pissed me off so much when I read this, because he doubled down, and yes, you will play the game the way everyone's been playing it for years. That's how it was always meant to be played, that kind of thing. I was hoping he would bring up role play. He barely mentions role play at all in this big tome. 167 pages.
Yeah.
172 pages. Role play is mentioned, not like none. He says role. He says you're playing the role of a thief, or you're playing the role of a whatever.
Yeah, that's one way of looking at it. Yeah, he looks at it as it's slightly beyond just the simple game mechanics. So he's not saying ROLL playing. Role playing. You're playing the dice.
At least he's not doing that.
Right. He's taking it that one step to saying, well, you're playing the role of the character within the group. And so you have certain skills and functions that nobody else in the group has, and you're doing things and functioning in that manner. He's not getting into the character's mind, mind and motives and such, as far as role playing is concerned, like you're thinking of it.
Yeah, he stayed more in this is your class, and this is what you get. These are attributes, and
there's I guess it's like taking steps towards, and gaining mastery. And maybe he doesn't get to that level of mastery as far as, hey, I have evolved from just rolling dice, and saying, all right, I rolled a 12 that misses. I rolled a 16 that hits. I did this many points of damage. Move beyond that, it says, my fighter, does this, and he was successful and this is what his hit looks like. I'm not mentioning numbers anymore. I'm still functioning within the character's abilities and such.
Yeah.
Now you take it one step further, and now you're talking what my character is, doing, thinking, saying, that kind of thing, functioning more. Still don't have to get to the level of, voices and doing that kind of, you're not acting.
Right.
That's, and I don't even consider that to be a higher level above the other three. You know what I'm saying? That's just a totally different thing. That's being more performative than actually role playing. So when you look at his game mastery book, where I disagreed with that was he doesn't really consider you to be a master game master unless you publish. I was like, well, one thing has nothing to do with the other. It's like, oh no, you're only good if you're only great if you're a publisher. You're only really good if you're going to conventions and you're running different games at different conventions and such. He had such a beyond the table view of game mastery.
Yeah, if you're on start playing and you're able to charge $50 to DM a game, then you're a professional.
Yeah.
Then you've mastered it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why when I came across that in there, I was like, you were doing so well. You were doing,
me too.
Through like 5-6 chapters, like, yeah, I could see this. And all of a sudden, but you really don't become a true game master until you've published. I was like, what? It has nothing to do with that. You could still be, I could see like he was trying to say that otherwise you're keeping all of your talent locked in at your table, and it's not going beyond your table. And in order to be a true master, you have to let your talent be seen around in different things. The one thing I give him credit for was he said that you couldn't be a master game master if you were only playing one game, only playing one game system. He was saying you have to play other game systems out there. But TSR was a different kind of company than Wizards of the Coast is.
Yeah.
TSR did have other games out there, whereas Wizards of the Coast only has 5e and Magic the Gathering, and maybe some other board games here or there. But for the most part, it's like they've limited themselves to just one, game, and no other company does that. I haven't seen any other companies that are even the small ones don't do that.
Yeah, there's I want to say the only company that's huge still would be Games Workshop.
Games Workshop has more than one game, though. Don't they? Games Workshop produces more than one game.
I want to say
Chaosium does it.
Do they do the fighting fantasy something?
They might have at one time owned them, right? You're talking about Fantasy Flight?
No, it's
or Final Fantasy.
No, it's what is it called? It's their RPG. It's their take on D&D. They've had several editions. I can't remember now.
But
I want to say it's Warhammer Fantasy.
Well, there's Warhammer Fantasy.
Warhammer Fantasy, maybe.
Yeah, there's Warhammer Fantasy. Fighting Fantasy was Steve Jackson. Fighting Fantasy is Steve Jackson.
Is Fighting Fantasy the one where you choose your own adventure kind of thing? You read the book and it says, okay, make a roll. What did you roll? Okay, go to page 12 then. Read this. Do this. Go to page 17.
Well, yeah. All of them did that. I mean, TSR was doing that.
Were those the Fighting Fantasy books? I can't remember.
Yes. Some would say 28 millimeter is saying yes.
I got one of these things. I got one somewhere. Where's my...
Yeah, I have the
Mine.
Choose Your Own Path adventure novels.
I got one. Let's see. Starship Traveler. That's the one I have.
Okay. Yeah, by Steve Jackson. It says it right on there.
Fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one's
Yeah.
buried at the bottom of my read
Yeah.
pile. So I'll never read this book because I'm always putting books on top of it. So I'm never ever gonna open. If I try to open it, the pages will fall out. That's how old it is. And by the way, I'm looking for 10-sided dice. 10-sided dice, like this one.
Mm-hmm.
This one has a 10 on it.
Oh, not a 0. Yeah.
Instead of a 0. I want to.
Mm-hmm.
I need a gray one, a dark gray with black numbers that has a 10. I've looked everywhere on the internet. Nope, Chessex doesn't make them anymore.
What game is that for? Or it doesn't matter?
I have weird role-playing games where they want you to use D10 dice, but they want them numbered 1 to 10, not 0 to 9.
Really?
So you're getting numbers like 2 to 20. When you roll 2 together, you get 2 to 20.
Yeah, but why don't you
Instead
still get
of-
that from?
Instead of 0 to 18.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I mean, you could do the thing in your head where a 0 counts as a 10, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But
Let me
when
see
you're
if I have
teaching
it.
when you're teaching newbies how to role play, it's just nice to have the right dice.
I'm curious to see if I have any like that.
Because I got hundreds of D10s and they're all 0 to 9. I thought, well, I'll just steal one from one of my board games, and they're all 0 to 9.
Yeah, I don't know if I
So I had to
have any
special
that
order.
are actually written 10.
Now here's the weird part. World of Darkness uses 10-sided dice numbered 1 to 10.
Yeah.
But they only sell them in bags of 10 or 20. I don't need that many dice. I just want one.
You can give a set to your teacher, your players.
I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll end it. Okay, that's a good idea. I'll probably end up doing that. I'll say, here's some dice for you. Here's some dice for you. I'll keep the one I need.
Oh no. Yeah.
But it's weird how all the dice start with 1 except for the D10.
Yeah.
And people say, well, that was a percentile thing back in the day. Well, I'm not doing percentile rolls, am I?
Remember when I was talking to you about the double D6s?
Yeah, I almost bought those.
Yeah. Because they roll better. Yeah, the only reason why is that they roll better.
Yeah,
I forgot the reason why.
You can get 12-sided dice numbered 1 through 4 3 times, or numbered 1 through 3 4 times, or 1 through 6 twice. Or it's very clever how they do stuff now with 3D printing.
Yeah.
Well,
okay, well, it is almost midnight, so
yeah, it's almost 9 here. I gotta get going.
Okay.
Well, I have to plan for my game for tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, it's good to have you on. That was unexpected, and a pleasure to have you on. We got into much more sci-fi than I thought. I was at the very beginning, so that was good. And
that's my thing. I'm always role playing. When I role play, I'm always thinking of cinematics, so I compare with movies.
Oh, and before you leave, I will show you, because you're always asking, what's he got behind him? All right, so what you don't see behind me, that I'm always blocking. Well, I do have my white box.
Yeah.
All right. So, but I do have my. So here are all my travelers. So
you got like 0 through 8 or something.
I think 12.
Looks like more than 8.
Yeah, it's more than 8. Let's see. Through 9.
Oh, I see a library book. I see a library book in your hand.
Oh, one of them was a library edition.
A through Z, or A through N, or A through
M, supplement 8.
Yeah,
through
that
M.
that was one of my go-to books back
Oh
in the
yeah,
80s.
yeah. That's what I want to do. Is I
That's
want to.
the third Imperium's all spelled out there in that book.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's what I wanted to do. Is I wanted to talk to you one day and just get an idea of which are the ones that I really need to focus on. Obviously, like a book zero, I don't think is a
It's an
it's
introduction to role play,
yeah,
but it's
and
how it was role played back then.
yeah, and then I get into the supplements. So I think there are 13 supplements though.
I don't
Um,
remember.
yeah, I think there's 13, and I was able to find like 1 through 9, fairly cheaply actually. And then I got some of these, I got at least one adventure. I just said, let me see what an adventure book looks like, but I didn't want to, I like writing my own adventures. I don't like using
I like the
presets.
solo adventures they did. I would grab those in a heartbeat when I'd see them in the store.
Yeah. So
Because
yeah,
for a
one.
while I was playing solo traveler for the longest time because one, there was no internet yet.
Mhm.
Two, no one in my neck of the woods had ever heard of a role playing game of any kind.
Right.
So Traveler was pretty good for solo stuff where you just play solo, you make a character, you do random encounters as best you can that makes sense in context, and you captain your own ship and you try to make money selling and buying and avoid pirates attacking you. And I had a computer that would help me with a lot of the number generations, so I didn't have to roll so many dice all the time. Help speed things up. Let's see. A D10 is 1 to 10 since the 0 is the 10, so I don't see it. See, so that's most people's answer.
Yeah.
But newbies new to the game, I want them to have the right dice for the right rules, that kind of thing. Because to them, dice is the setting. So I have to explain that to them when they get used to the rules, that the setting and the system are two different things. Because that's the next leap is to get, once you learn a mechanic, then you want to start thinking in terms of setting and genre. What are you going to do, like with your character? Are we going to do a Western? Are we going to do a mystery? Are we going to do a horror? Are we going to do science? Are we going to do fantasy? Once they got the mechanic down pat, then it's just a matter of, okay, what's our sandbox going to be? So I try to get the players to think about that early on. I don't want them to think, oh, well, the dice only have this kind of a rule, so we can only do this kind of a thing. And that was a big deal with Traveler when it first came out, because the setting was the system. There wasn't a setting yet. But now, as you have all those books now, you can see there's a setting now for Traveler.
Right.
When the core book came out, that was it. That for years, that was it. And if you died while in frozen hibernation, that was the setting, because that's the rule in the game. You could die when you're frozen. And the outfits you wear and the weapons you have, that's it. Those are all your choices. And the spaceships listed in the book, that's it. Those are the only spaceships. In all of the galaxy, those are the only spaceships we can fly around in. So I try to get players to think, we're going to do other stuff. We'll adapt the rules to other things. You're not going to die in frozen hibernation, I promise you. This is a different setting, a different technology. You're not, the crew isn't going to bet to see which passengers live and which ones die. There's no pool like that. Just because that one paragraph mentions it, we'll just skip over it. Remember, they say rule 0 without saying rule 0. If you read the whole Traveler core book, you'll see it, stitched in between paragraphs. By the way, ignore these rules if you want to. You don't have to use all of them. You can change it if you don't like it. because I know Max likes to play by the rules.
Hmm.
It's there. We're going to do it. We're going to do it that way. We're going to do these combat rounds the way they're described in the book. And if I don't like an initiative rule, I don't use initiatives. I just don't. And the role-playing games I see now, half of them say initiative's optional. If you're role-playing and you're in character and you already know what you're able to do at that moment, you don't really need to roll for an initiative. Some random number is going to determine if you can go up to some guy and attack him or not. You already know if you're able to do that or not in context, in the situation, in the moment. I mean, if your left arm is sawed off and that was your good arm, yeah, it's going to be hard for you to shoot with your bad arm you still have. You role play with the bad arm, trying to do something. You know you're not going to be as good with that arm. So you wait. You're still in shock probably. So you're probably still bleeding out if no one's come to your medical attention yet. Maybe the other players don't know your arm got chewed off and you're in a hallway bleeding out somewhere. So to me, that's more realistic than, well, do your initiative anyway and see. Oh, you got a higher initiative than everyone else? Oh, you get to go first. Person with one arm left bleeding in a tunnel.
Well, that's why I said I started using situational, so and then just let them go from there, and then if they are going to still look to roll initiative, it'll still be that particular character in that situation that will roll initiative for the whole party, because they're the one that's closest to the action to begin with. It's been working well for me, so I think it just makes more sense to do that. So, by the way, I've been finding a lot of the 110s, but they're all in pounds. So probably foreign markets, you're getting 1 to 10.
I've been buying from England somewhere.
Yeah, that's where I'm finding them. I find them, a single one, 1 to 10 is half a pound.
Yeah.
And then but the packs of 10s, like 10 of those, you find them on Amazon.
Yeah, that's probably what I'll end up doing, and then just pass them out. Pass them out. I can't pass them out, but I have to ship them out to other players because we're playing online and stuff.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's been a pleasure. I'm going to wrap it up here, and thanks everyone for having, stopped in and saying hello. Hey, I taught all my kids around the age of 5 that 0 is 10. Okay, but I could see that. I could see the advantage in having 1 to 10. Just as a,
I mean, I'll still use 0 to 10.
Yeah.
If the rules are 0 to 10, but if the rules are 1 to 10, or 0 to 9 for the percentage stuff. But I don't really do D100 games. I don't like D100 games. And it just makes my dice collection look more nice.
Yeah.
Because you got this odd 10-sided die that's half of a percentile die roll.
All righty.
Anyway.
Well, thanks a lot.
See you later. See you later.
Take care, everyone. Yep. Have a good one.
See you next time.
Yep. Take care, everyone.